Hi, if you're watching this message right now, it means that you're about to watch between episodes 1 and 23 of my show, Conversations with Atul. Please note that when you'll be watching these first 23 episodes, you will just see a picture of me and a picture of the guest on your screen. That is because the first 23 episodes we never recorded live video. These were audio only episodes meant for Spotify. So what happened was, when I shifted my show to YouTube and started recording video, I felt that my audience should also listen to these first fantastic 23 episodes with some amazing people, great anecdotes, inspiring lives. Like Mukhtar Bhai, who runs a carom club in Thane for the last 35 years. The amazing voiceover artist Nikhil Kapoor, the orchestra man Sudhir Sinha, or the whistler Nagesh Surve. I wanted you to be a part of this experience. One little thing that you will see this message that I've recorded right now before each of the 23 episodes of Conversations with Atul. So, enjoy the conversations and welcome to Conversations with Atul.
Conversations with Atul.
This episode is sponsored by Vrinda's Art for Heart.in. Every time I meet her, I'm always laughing my head off because she's one of the funniest women I know. She's not a stand-up comic, but trust me, she could be. What she is now is a writer of this hilarious book called Faaltugiri and Other Flashbacks, How I Survived Childhood in the 80s. Today I'm talking with Janhavi Samant about how childhood was so different, so outdoorsy and more fun in the rocking 80s. Hi, I'm Atul Taishete and welcome to my show, Conversations with Atul. Hi Janhavi, such a pleasure to have you on my show.
Thank you.
And it's, I think what we're going to discuss today, and you've written this fantastic book called Faaltugiri and Other Flashbacks, How I Survived Childhood in the 80s. So that got me thinking that was the 80s tha kya? That what was it that was so different about it? And we see that nostalgia in films like Farah Khan's films probably.
Correct.
And we see that time. And it was very different from, it was like children today can't even relate to how different it was, because I think a lot of things have got merged in these times, which we used to be, which we will be talking about in a way. So that is the major difference, I think, between the 80s and today. So I just want to ask you, like, what is your first memory of the 80s? So I'll start you off with, what my first memory of the 80s is. So my first memory was that I used to live in this area called Yashodan Nagar, and we used to go to school, and every day I was late for school. Kabhi my school pe time pe nahi gaya.
Okay.
So we used to go through these almost like the gutters and all that we used to go through. And during the rains they used to be flowing like that, and God knows how we used to cross that. Koi flow koke kaisa Arabian Sea mein nahi pahuncha, bhagwan jane.
Correct.
But that is what used to happen. And we used to go through all this. And then there was this road at one point where to reach the school, either you take the proper road or you go on a pipeline. This huge water pipeline that used to be there. So उस pipeline के ऊपर जाने का. तो pipeline के ऊपर जाएगा तो 1.5 minute बचता है, and you're already late.
Correct.
So my first memory is of running like at breakneck speed on these pipelines.
Correct.
Like crazy breakneck speed. And when I made my feature film Vartak, and I said Vartak Nagar, and I said, boss, मेरा ये था कि यार इसमें तो मैं बच्चे को pipeline पे at least खड़ा तो करेगा, because pipeline है. क्योंकि भाई, and तभी क्या होता था, you are running at breakneck speed, and there is like a 4-5 meter fall down.
Correct.
But you never, and there are people who have shat on the pipeline.
Correct.
So you're jumping over their shit. And you're running at breakneck speed at Shastri Nagar का एक pipeline है. So तुम भाग रहे.
I have walked on this pipeline because it is the backside of that drugs colony place which I'm saying. It overlooks.
No, that is a different pipeline. But I'm talking about.
Okay.
But that is the kind of pipeline that I'm talking about. तो उधर वैसा pipeline था, मैं लोग भाग रहा हूँ. तो मैं भाग इसलिए भी रहा हूँ कि मेरे पीछे भी एक आदमी भाग रहा है. All of us are late. तो वो भी भाग रहा है, मैं भी भाग रहा हूँ, आगे 2 लोग भाग रहे हैं.
Correct.
Because everybody is late for, जो भी late school के लिए वो pipeline के ऊपर भाग रहे हैं. And we are running at crazy breakneck speeds, I mean, and I always wonder how we didn't fall off, how nothing happened. So जब मैं वर्तक शूट किया, I said like, हाँ, pipeline के ऊपर बच्चे को डालने गए.
Correct.
You know, and then when we were shooting in Mad, found this nice blue colored pipeline, small pipeline. There was no fall also.
Correct.
It's hardly a meter, 2 meters down.
Correct.
And these kids were like 13, 14 years old. But the moment I got them on the pipeline, वो उनका पैर ऐसा शेक होने लग गया. Because the whole dimensions of the pipeline for somebody who's never stood on the pipeline is very scary. I mean, it's not actually like even today I walk on a pipeline. There is a pipeline there, so मेरे को ऐसा डर नहीं लगता because I walked on a pipeline.
Correct.
But someone who's never walked, and these were kids from Dadar. 3 of them, one was from Haryana, 3 were from like this Balmohan or somewhere. तो उन लोग का तो पैर वैर शेक होने लग गया. फिर उनको बिठाया गया. It was a montage in a film, so उनको बिठा दिया. So this is what is the kind of memory I have. So you have grown up in Dadar.
Yeah.
You had this, your childhood is pretty well mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
What is that memory, the first memory that comes in of the 80s for you?
So one of the first memories is walking from Shivaji Park to Dadar. My nani used to stay in Shivaji Park, and we never took a bus. We never took a taxi. We walked from Shivaji Park to Dadar. And it was like a weekly family thing for us. Like my mother would have a chutti on Saturday, and we would go to my nani's house, all the cousins, so my mother and her sisters, her children, they would go for shopping to Dadar West, Ranade Road or somewhere, where we were not taken ever. And then they finished their shopping, came, picked us up, and we always walked back. One of the things we did when we walked back was to have energy and batata vada at Shivaji Park Gymkhana. There, the caterer Sanju was a Balmohan student, my mother's school classmate, and we used to only have that and walk back from Shivaji Park to Dadar. It's one of my very I remember, and I remember the exact route we used to take also. So when I started, so in my 4th standard, I started walking alone from my house to Shivaji Park. It's unthinkable for a child of this generation to do that. But I used to walk as a 8-year-old from Dadar station to Shivaji Park. And even now at 44, I take the same route. I don't change I only cross at the footpaths where we used to cross and at the signals that we used to cross. And my father had shown me a way in which I had to cross the road only twice. Till then, you are walking on footpaths throughout. So if you crossed from those spots, you would have to cross only twice. So my youngest memory is of that road, and even today I go automatically on that road. I know every sort of khadda, every this thing on that road. And I think the other old memory is that of Ganesh Utsav in my gully.
So I just want to ask you, how has that route changed now? From the time.
Actually, very little has changed on that road. Thankfully, because half of that route is railway station. The railway station doesn't change. Redevelopment has not happened much. The second 1/4 of that route is Tilak Bridge. And only the route from Plaza Cinema to Shivaji Park, which is now where all the redevelopment, the Kohinoor Square has come up and all that. That is the only place which has changed. But the shopping hub remains the same. So the people, the crowd, the relative safety or dangers of walking on that road remain the same. So technically, it's not much of a change at all. So that's a very automatic thing I do. My mind does, like a rat, Just chhod do, to wohi route leke I reach my nani's house. That
so
way.
I we'll get to, the other things in your life, like we'll get to Ganpati and we'll get to other things. But let's talk a little bit about yourself, where you were born and where your parents came from. Because I'm very interested in understanding how the migrant population in this country, I mean, people don't realize, but all of us are migrants.
Correct.
Like my parents have come from interior Konkan, and then they somehow, generations back, they settled.
Correct.
And that's how it happened. So how migration actually happens to the cities.
Correct.
So what is your backstory? What is your parents' backstory? And what is your story till you went to school?
So, my great-grandfather is S.K. Patil from my mother's side. He ran away from school in the 7th standard to come to Bombay. He was in Pat, it's a village in Malvan, and he came to Bombay. He went on to become a union minister. He was very political. He became a journalist first. Then he joined politics during the Quit India movement, and he became a union minister. He was a close aide of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So from his time, our family has been in Bombay only. So we have no roots in Kudar, Malvan, any of those places. My father's father
So
Yeah.
how did you have any idea of how he managed to become like a runaway at in the seventh standard to becoming a union minister?
Yeah.
So do you have
So
any
I'll
idea
tell
about his
you.
journey?
So he, from what I have heard about his journey, his parents passed away young. I think his father passed away young. He didn't want to live with his uncle, so he ran away from home. And he was told that in Bombay you get a lot of jobs and you can work and whatever. He came to Bombay, and we have this. Community, like all my Jatwalas have lived in something called Kolachiwadi in Girgaon for many years. So he came there knowing that a lot of his community members will be there. And then these Topi Wale Desai and all used to sponsor poor students of our community. So he took scholarships and he was a very bright student. So 8th, 9th, 10th he did very well. He did, I think he did BA from Wilson College if I'm not mistaken. And then he joined Bombay Chronicle. And he then became a journalist for many years, and then in 42 he joined the Quit India movement. August Kranti Maidan, he heard Gandhiji's speech, and he decided that he wanted to fight for India's freedom. And then he, of course, I don't know, he worked up the ranks. That I don't know. His political rise I'm not very sure of. But he was very close to Sardar Patel, that much I know. And he had a huge rivalry with Morarji Desai. And he was the key villain in Sanyukta Maharashtra movement.
Oh.
So Prabodhankar Thakre and all, S.K. Patil was the arch villain in that story of Sanyukta Maharashtra, where my great-grandfather was instrumental in saying that Mumbai should be combined Rajdhani of Gujarat and Maharashtra.
Oh.
Yeah, and should be a union territory.
That was a big fight.
Yes.
That was a big,
yes.
big
And
fight.
you will be surprised that I knew much of my family history because of this book on Girangaon that was written by Meena Menon and Neera Adarkar. These are two. Meena Menon is a known trade unionist. They were writing a book on Girangaon, which is the Lalbagh Parli area of Bombay, and I did all their research. During the course of this research, I met around 120 people who I interviewed at length. And surprisingly, it brought me in touch with a lot of my own family history, because I didn't know that my great-grandfather was presumed or perceived to be anti-Maharashtra at the time. And it would be very surprising that I would sit there and listen to people, talking about S.K. Patil, because these were people who fought for Sanyukta Maharashtra, who I was interviewing, and they were mill workers, and they would talk, about him, criticize him, and then I would say, have you heard, because I was very young, they would say, you wouldn't know him, and I would say, actually I know him, he's my great-grandfather. He's like, oh, he was a very good politician, but he screwed up here. And a lot of that the textile mill history, I learned because my own family history I learned because of the textile mill history. And my father's father, Janhavi Samant, he was a mill worker.
Oh.
And he started as a mill worker. He then got promoted to clerical work, and he retired. He was living in Kamgar Nagar in Kurla. He got allotted those government housing. And all his sons, including my father, all his children grew up on scholarship. And of course, at that time, one became an engineer, one became a doctor. My father became a dentist. And from Kurla, in Kurla, we had like a small house, but it was a standalone house, where my kakas, my elder uncle's wife, children, my mother, after she got married, then my mother couldn't settle in that, because my mother was came from a slightly more well-to-do family than my father. So they couldn't adjust there, and eventually they moved out. Eventually they were thrown out actually. And they then came to live in Dadar, where we currently, which is mentioned in the book. So little bit of that is Kurla, and my father's other relatives are in Vasai. They're all from Vasai Virar area. And there is very interesting fights between our parents used to be based on the fact that my father comes from Vasai and my mother comes from Dadar. So
Because Dadar is in Bombay, right? The rest of it, after Dadar, nothing is in
no,
Bombay.
but I don't think that that feeling was a part of it. But I know that my cousins in Vasai used to say, "Me Mumbai la jana re." Today you don't think of Vasai as not Mumbai, but my brother would say, तू आता मुंबईला परत कधी जाणार? And I was like, we are in Mumbai only.
No, Vasai is not in Mumbai, but
Huh.
my point basically was that people who live from Dadar upwards till like say
Yeah,
Devi Nagar,
some of them
there
think,
is this
yeah,
there
some
is
of them
this
think,
view.
but I don't think that that is true. I think that Thane, you would see like a lot of the other people, like a lot of my school friends today live in Thane.
No, that is now because they can sell there and get
Correct,
1 BHK can get a 3
but
BHK
the
here.
Dadar pun of Dadar then has come to Thane, no?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
then you don't see, now
But
you see Dadar Matunga, you see only Gujaratis there, so.
I'm saying that was the
Ha.
perspective even back then, because even I went to business school there
Ha.
in like Churchgate.
Correct.
You know, and then it was like that. Somewhere that whole thing was there. कि तुम थाना से है.
Correct.
Or, like people, I have a friend.
No,
who used to live in Bhaikala and used to
Acha.
talk like that.
Acha.
Then, अरे हम लोग तो मुंबई में हैं, तुम लोग किधर?
Acha.
You know, so that.
In my father and mother's case, this has a culture difference, not a geographical or a financial difference. You know, वसईची लोक उर्मटच असतात, अमकी लोक तशीच असतात. This is like one presupposition that certain people are certain ways only. So that way, it wasn't much. But even something as simple as like my father's father, the fact that he was a textile mill. I remember for many years my Dada used to come home whenever he visited us very few times, because my father didn't get along with my grandfather at all, and they were very brusque and very abrasive with each other. So whenever my Dada visited, he would come with sutar feni.
Yeah.
So sutar feni, and we had this very sutar feni from Gauri Shankar Chittarmal, which is a mithai wala under the Elphinstone Bridge. Okay, and for many years, like we've grown up on chaha chapati. So our morning nashta, this poha upma is a very recent thing. We have grown up, before going to school, we would roll a chapati, plain chapati with tup on it, dip it in chai and eat chaha chapati. I don't know nutritional benefits of it. I don't know what this thing, but everyone in my house, there was no other choice. So all of us ate chaha chapati, sakai 10 chapatis, ratricha whatever. You roll it, you eat chaha chapati and you move out. So this now, after many years when I was doing the Girangaon research, I realized that mill workers, when they stepped out to work, they would have chaha chapati at the Khanawal Wali Bai. So they used to live in that chawl, there would be one Khanawal Wali Bai. Tichakade down, they would go to her place, eat chaha chapati and then go to work. And then have lunch there. But this is such an important part of my life. Like I didn't know anybody in school, anybody in college who had chaha chapati for breakfast. And I learned it this way, that actually it is a mill worker tradition which continued from my Dada to my father, and then from my father to me. Unfortunately, my kids don't eat chaha chapati at all. But even today, it's like comfort food for me. If in the morning you don't feel like eating poha, this. So you roll one chapati. किंवा गरम चपाती अशी बनताना, I say, चल मी एक चहा बरोबर खाते. So this whole thing about, and then the flavor of the chai when you have dipped a chapati in it, it's very different.
Changes, yeah.
So this I didn't know. So a little bit of my family history I was able to know, a little bit of Bombay. Why Lal Bagh was called Lal Bagh I didn't know. Like a lot of us didn't know why Lal Bagh, but it was a communist stronghold. So Lal flag,
right.
Lal Bagh, Red Square.
Right.
Russian Red Square was.
Right.
That's why it's called Lal Bagh. I didn't know this.
And now there is Ganpati there. It's a communist stronghold, and now it's the biggest Ganpati in the country.
Correct.
Is at Lal Bagh. I mean, it cannot be more ironical actually.
So that, so things like that I was not aware of. That it helped me recognize about the city and about my own history, that sort of thing.
This cha chapati thing, because my mother, like even now, like if I have a chapati extra, I think it's one thing, it maybe is about also wasting food. Because
Correct.
a lot of times at night some chapatis get left.
Correct.
You know, so sabzi gets finished generally, but the chapati gets left.
Correct.
So they don't want to waste that food.
Correct.
And resources were meager then, because I
Correct.
know what my family went through. So resources were meager, and particularly in that strata of
Correct.
society. So that is why probably,
Could be.
was the, because even today she'll have in the morning, like where I live now, my cousin sends chapatis, and if there is a chapati left, she'll say no, and she'll be insistent that I'll have it in the
tomorrow
morning. You know. And there's one more thing which my father does, I have not seen, and like since we're talking about food, which I've never seen anybody do, and for the first time I saw it, it was mind numbing for me, मतलब mind bending जो बोलते हैं. He has basically shira and no, shira and bread.
Oh God.
I was like, and then I saw some other people also having it.
Is it?
And it was like it is some kind of a dish which I mean, and
Is
my
it?
father has seen very hard times when he was like he used to sleep in the veranda in Girgaon and all that for like till he was after he was 15. I don't think he had a house till he was 30. Still was married and all that. So he never really had a house. So he used to live in relatives' houses and he used to live in the veranda in that Girgaon chawl and all that. So I don't know, maybe it all comes from there. But for me
Correct.
personally, like your kids, if you tell them have cha chapati, they'll probably leave
Correct.
the house.
Correct.
When your 8-year-old girl would just say, boss, ho gaya, this is where I draw the line. I'm leaving this house now. So that's
Correct.
But what I want fantastic about what you're telling me right now is that your family almost has this what we talk about the Indian economy, which is
Correct.
again a lot of rubbish as always. There is a K-shaped recovery.
Huh.
So that is it. Like, so your grandfather was a union this minister,
Correct.
and then his son was a mill worker.
No. That great grandfather from my mother's side.
अच्छा.
माझी आईची आई आहे तिचे
अच्छा,
वडील.
अच्छा. That I didn't
हाँ.
get. Okay. Okay.
No, his sons are very well settled. So
Ah,
we
so
we
that's
are
what I
from.
thought. He was a union minister.
So
then he became a.
we come from a very weird family where one end of the family could live in like the worst of chawls and another lives in a penthouse in Marine Drive.
Yeah.
Like I have one relative who owns a building in Marine Drive. Like you can't get any richer than that. But the scope is that wide. So no, that's not the same grandfather. That is not the same grandfather.
So, if we take it further from there, so you were in school. So you went to school in Dadar, right?
Yeah.
So what are your memories of school? Which school you went to and how?
I went to IS King George, where I think every child in Dadar went to IS only. And it was like a factory of students. It was the worst school ever. But I don't know what kids were doing in that school. It was one bekar ka school it was. I think there were like 1,000 kids, or there were 65 kids in one class, first of all. And there were 10 divisions. 10 divisions, so 650 students in every batch. And people didn't know what their kids were eating, I don't know, matlab, it was a very khachar type of school. People used to talk in Marathi. So one thing IS King George did for its students was all students could speak excellent Marathi. कारण teachers Marathi शिकवायचे. Although it is an English medium school. So you're writing your papers in English, but you are talking in Marathi. Like Sathe teacher would come into class and say, Samant, आधी बाहेर जा. पण टीचर मी काय केलं तू काही नाही केलं सगळं मी केलं तू बाहेर जा आता. So we had like very
So can you just translate that in Hindi?
Yeah, in Hindi it would mean, Samant, please leave the classroom. But teacher, I have not done anything. You have not done anything. Everything I have done. But you please leave the class. So it was like a lot of Gujarati students. It was called factory because everyone spoke Marathi. Everyone was dull only. There was like, and it was the typical schools. A and B were they all focused their energies on A and B, and the rest of us were left
all
to
idiots.
grow up like sheep and do whatever. भरपूर मार खाया है, like lot of hitting involved. Teachers could barely speak any English themselves, and general मतलब anarchy. मतलब I know that classmates used to bend fan blades. Kids used to do that.
Hang on from the fan blades and.
They would go up and bend the fan blades and destroy. Like vandalism was very cool in our school at the time. And it has happened. And we had like in 9th and 10th, boys used to follow me from school. Matlab, say eve teasing was very, this thing, sexual harassment was very, like now when I think about it, it's like shocking that the kind of things we internalized and never, and because I knew ki I will get scolded, I never brought it up to my parents also. Like once my father, who was waiting for me, we lived in a ground floor flat facing the roadside. So when I came home from school once, 2-3 times, he said, Janhavi, do you even know that these 4 boys are following you from school every day? I said, who? Arey, acha, is it? And I was not even aware that because one flock of students would go from our gully to the school, and so like second standard we used to walk to school, 1 kilometer away. We used to walk. What were our instructions? Go with this group of children. Do not stray from the path. Just follow them. So if they had gone and fallen into a gutter, we would have gone and fallen into a gutter. Itna blind we used to like calmly we go to the school following other older kids, like 7th standard children we would follow. They were not taking care of us. They were not responding. If we got lost, my parents could have done nothing.
If they got lost.
If they got lost, forget.
you
But
would get
even
lost.
matlab, they were not aware that we are following them. But our source of security is to follow them and go to school.
Right, right.
So it was quite dangerous in that sense. But even on those trips, where in that walking, we used to get up to things and do random things. Like I told you, once we used to walk backwards when we came back from school. Like on the busy street of Dadar station, me and my friend would hold hands and walk backwards. And we thought it was very cool. And random stranger would get angry and fatak give us one thapata, and we would like sorry, and then walk straight. But like so, people thought nothing of hitting kids. There was no fear of anything. We also used to be shameless. Like we never came home and said someone hit us because we would have been whacked. Why were you walking backward first of all? क्योंकि आंखें बंद करके चलते थे हम लोग. Like close our eyes and walk on the street. मतलब खुदा देखेगा तुमको types. I don't know why we did these things. Then 3-legged race के लिए prepare करने के लिए we used to walk 3-legged from school to back home. So some stupid things like that. But our school was also like very encouraging of these things because no one paid anybody any attention. And in fact, it was a school where I told the teacher, when the teacher wanted to call my mother, I told the teacher, whatever you want to do, you do to me and finish this business. My mother will not come to school. If my mother comes to school, you will regret it. फिर भी my teacher insisted. My mother went to school and gave her a nice lecture and came back. She said, उसने गलती किया ठीक है, आप लोग क्या कर रहे थे और आपको उसको punish कर लो, जो करना है करो, मारो, punish करो, whatever. Why you are wasting my time by calling me to school? I've got work to do. So teacher said, okay, sorry.
Teacher said sorry. So but this used to happen, because I noticed it. I was a kid then. Even in my society, if a girl got out of the building, she's down. Then like there are 4 guys because after her.
Lukhas, no? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just after her going wherever she's going.
Yeah.
Wherever she's going, they used to go follow her up to there. Then she's coming back. उसका मतलब actually security वो guards ही होते थे, कुछ खराब नहीं करते थे उसका. Generally they never, maybe one of them once after a year or somebody would go and ask the girl or something. I don't know what they used to ask also because then
there was no system of proposing and all at that time.
तो वो लोग करते ही नहीं, they used to ask possibly. हाँ
Yeah.
उधर मेरी सोसाइटी में तो पूछते थे, but that used to happen like once in a, I am interested in you or something like that. That I am interested in you was the most common thing that they used to say. And that is it. Like I used to go to these classes called Pinto's classes, and I had these 2 girls who were in my society. I used to come with them. And every day we used to come back, there used to be like 10 guys, and that place, that class was like at least I think 6 kilometers away from my house.
Yeah.
तो उन लोग तेरे को छोड़ने आते थे जब you are going to class. There were like 10 boys from my society, and me, I was used to be with these girls, 2 girls called Kavita and Veena, I remember, and they're still friends. I mean, so like we used to go together, and there's like 10 boys coming after them. वो पीछे से कहीं से तो आ रहे साथ में, सो तो वो 6 किलोमीटर वो चल के आते थे हमारे साथ, 4 या 6 किलोमीटर वहाँ रुकते थे, पूरा क्लास अटेंड करते थे, मतलब सीखते कुछ नहीं थे बिकॉज देयर आउटसाइड द क्लास, तो वहाँ रुकते थे उन लोग. आई गॉड नोस व्हाट दे यूज्ड टू डू, मे बी दे यूज्ड टू नो दैट, मे बी वॉच अ फिल्म एंड कम बैक लाइक पीपल, या मे बी गो एंड चेस सम अदर गर्ल फॉर दोस 2 hours. Then after exactly at that 8 o'clock, say 6 to 8 अगर क्लास है तो 8 बजे एकदम perfect उन लोग वहाँ खड़े रहते थे. Then used to drop us back home. Obviously they used to be like about 25 meters behind us, but they used to drop us to class and they used to drop us back. So this was extremely
So
common.
I'll tell you one incident that happened once when I was a child. We were at my nanny's place in Shivaji Park. Now my nanny stays in this very quiet lane. Now it's not quiet because Raj Thackeray lives in that lane. But at that time it used to be one quiet leafy by lane. कुछ ये नहीं बाजू में कैटल रोड का हवा चल रहा है. But यहाँ पे सब quiet. And a lot of people, couples at that time used to go to Shivaji Park garden, that Chowpatty garden. So while coming back, many of these couples would have fights or whatever. कोई किसी का पीछा कर रहा है, whatever. Lot of this excitement used to happen. If you're sitting in the gallery, you could see a lot of this. Once one girl came into the building. Okay. This was a standalone small building with only 6 flats. So she came ting tong. I was at home and my nanny was home. And this girl said, this boy is doing my picha. So I want to wait here for a bit and will you help me? My nanny said, okay. She had pani. We stood in the gallery. That boy was standing below. My nanny went down and jhado the shit out of him and made him go away. Okay. And she said, now you go, it's all safe. 15 days later, that girl was standing with the same boy, chit-chatting, हाथ में हाथ पकड़े हुए नीचे बिल्कुल हमारे बिल्डिंग के नीचे. एंड मैं नानी से देखा कैसी आजकल की लड़कियां हैं. 2 weeks ago she was scared of this boy and now she's roaming around with him. So it's like
Yeah, that used to happen. Like at least in my building, I know that if there was this girl on the 3rd floor, was सामने वो like this, it was like a U. That building, 5 buildings होते, they were like a U. So अगर वो 5 number या 3 number में अगर कोई है, तो diagonally opposite, that exactly opposite guy will be standing there and looking up. Looking up for like God knows, for like 4 hours just looking up. और वो लड़की अपना काम कर रही है, आ रही है, बाहर जा रही है, वापस, वो अपना, he's standing there looking up. That's all that he's doing. This is very common. It was very common.
We've had classmates who followed a girl from Dadar to Kurla. First of all, the stupid, this thing, people came from Kurla to our school. That is the bigger part of it. They came in a BST. So these group of guys used to go behind this friend of mine who lived in Shiva Shrishti in Kurla. उसके पीछे BST से प्रभा देवी का लड़का कुर्ला तक जाके फिर कुर्ला से अभी स्कूल रियूनियन में मिले तब बोला कितना मैं पीछा करता था उसका. माय गॉड, ही इज लाइक लाफिंग एट हिमसेल्फ. ही सेड हाउ फूलिश इज दैट, रोज पैसा निकाले. बट पेरेंट्स मस्ट हैव नॉट चेक्ड ओनली व्हाट टाइम ही इज कमिंग होम और व्हाटएवर इट इज. आई डोंट नो.
Boys also had far more freedom than girls. I mean, far more. You can't even. It's not even comparable actually how much freedom boys had then.
Correct.
Like my parents had no idea where I was. I'm sure if it was a girl, they would
No,
know.
of course.
They would know something. Even though both my parents were working, they would keep some kind of checks and balances.
Correct.
To see. But
Even I remember one event when I was in the 7th standard. We had Saturday school 8 to 11. Okay. So once, this happened out of complete innocence and unthinkingness. We decided in the class, 3 girls, that we will go to this girl's house. There were no phones. There is no way to contact anybody. We went to her house. 1:30 बजे मैं घर आई अपने. And we decided I'll go to her place first, then they will come to my place. I remember this very clear memory. We came walking and my mom had क्या बोलते हैं उसको, brought out the whole gully to look for me. पूरा गली के लोग मेरे घर के सामने खड़े हैं मेरे बिल्डिंग कंपाउंड में. एंड आई एम वॉकिंग चिल में एट 1:30 in the afternoon when I'm supposed to reach home at 11:30. Everybody is looking for me and I come with these 3 friends and my mom slapped me in front of all those people. छाप करून बसली आहे ना अशी झापड. And she's saying, not ashamed of yourself, where have you been for the... I went to this one. My friends saw this and ran away. Okay, they ran away back home. And my mother's contention was not that I should not go out with friends, but this whole, why didn't you call? How are we supposed to know that you've gone to a friend's place or someone has kidnapped you? And to me, I truly didn't even think that my mom would have needed to know this. So it's...
yeah, but when you are a kid, you don't think through all these things.
But if my son did that, I would have a coronary cardiac arrest or something.
That's true. Then you understand it now better probably because
like now my son has started walking back from school. He loves to walk. Okay, so now that offline school has started, he said, I want to walk back from King Circle to Dadar. It's a straight road. He knows the road. I know that. So I said, okay, fine, come on your own. But my mother will, 1 o'clock school ends. Now 1:35 she will call sharp. Alaka. He said, no, he's not come yet. Why hasn't he come yet? Okay, track where he is. Is his phone on? Find out where he is. I don't need to find out. He'll come home. He comes at 1:45, whatever. Then I have to call her and tell her that he's reached back home. But now there is that uncertainty about knowing कि घर ही आएगा और कहीं नहीं जाएगा. फिर भी there is uncertainty.
I think it is also about about fixed things that they were bothered about.
Huh.
Like if you are going to school, then you will be back by 1:30.
Yeah.
Once you are home and you go down to play,
then
you
doing
come
whatever.
back by 7.
Yeah.
So abhi ye agar like we used to go out to play at 4 o'clock generally.
Correct.
4 to 7. 4 to 7, 7:30. So 4 to 7:30 you can, from Bombay you can go to Agra and come
Correct.
back. And nobody would care.
Correct.
But-
And we would be in somebody's house.
yeah, you could be anywhere and nobody would care. But at
Correct.
7:30 if you're not home, then they panic.
Correct.
So the panic was
Yeah.
I think was time driven.
Correct.
That ये time पे कौन है?
Correct.
ये time पे नहीं, अरे कुछ तो हो गया. ये time के बीच में वो क्या कर रहा है, किधर है? Nobody cared.
Correct.
And we used to really go far. I remember once the same thing happened with me, that then they used to have this roadside shows and all that. वो आते थे लोग.
Yeah.
Poor people used to put up a show. Like there was a magician who had put up a show.
अच्छा.
And I just stood there watching, for वो चलता रहा. 1 घंटे वो show करता रहा वो आदमी.
हाँ.
And in the middle of the afternoon, I'm sitting and watching it. And I came home. And everybody was like, किधर है, क्या हो गया? So that is what, you're right. But I also feel you're right. कि वो, it's more for women, for girls,
Correct,
than
yeah.
it was for guys. I mean, guys had far more fit. Even today, I'm sure, but today it's far less.
Correct.
But then it was like it was amazing how much freedom guys had and what
Yeah.
they could get away with. That difference was there. So with school, I mean, what else do you remember? I mean, what kind of friends did you have? How do you remember friendship as a thing?
When I was younger, I basically building friends were, there was no question of choice. Building में जो है उनके साथ खेलो, नहीं पढ़ता है तो घर पे बैठो. So we had some slightly older building friends who we used to play with. We used to have to get along with them because there was nothing else to do. Like there were no other options for entertainment or socializing. So we played with the building kids, and there used to be there were 2 chawls on the side and 1 chawl in the front of our building, and there were kids there as well. And like I was telling you, sometimes we played on the street, and depending on which friends were available at what time, we used to play on the street or in the building compound. And that's how it was. So this concept of friendship, as in choice in friendship, came I think in 7th, 8th standard or something, when you sort of choose to be with certain and hang out with certain people as compared to other people. But till then it was like mainly building friends only.
Do you remember those times, those games which were very, I mean, I think they were
Yeah,
definitely all physical games, more than like right
Sakhari we used to play a lot.
now. Yeah.
Sakhari,
Son
Lagori.
Sakhari. It was called Son
हाँ.
Sakhari.
So Lagori we used to play. Then we played Fire on the Mountain, Run. What else did we play?
Andhadi Koshimbir used to be. I
हाँ,
think.
Blind Man's Buff we didn't play much, but Fire on the Mountain, London Stop we used to play. So that was one game which was very popular. But half the time what to play would take up the discussion. म्हणजे if you would play for 2 hours, 1.5 hours were spent in discussing what to play, because some person would not want to play something. Then there would be camps inside those groups also कि मैं तो इसके साथ ही जाऊंगी, मैं तो इसके साथ. So that way. भोजा में तो I remember, my mother says I used to do this. I don't remember doing this. But then आ गया तो I used to just come home. And everyone's hiding and then wondering क्या हुआ करके, and then come to look for me at home, and then I would say, oh, I went to do susu, so I forgot. So whatever all said, we had to be back at 7:30.
The male version of that was कि अगर मतलब जिसका बैट है उसका बैटिंग है.
हाँ.
तो उसका एक बार बैटिंग हो गया, फिर वो अपना बैट लेके घर चला जाता था. This actually used to happen amongst boys.
Yeah, correct.
And there used to be real assholes like that.
Correct,
Who used to do that. कि अपना बैट लिया, अपना बॉल लिया और अपना बैटिंग ले लिया. पहला मेरा बैटिंग क्योंकि बैट मेरा है. बैट लिया, 2 मिनट फिर खड़ा रहा उधर. फिर नहीं मेरे को मम्मी बुला रही है, घर चला गया वो. That kind of power actually,
yeah,
because
of course.
and one has to understand it also, because there were other children
Correct.
who couldn't afford a bat.
Correct.
or a ball or whatever. So the whole thing that they were so dependent on this,
Correct.
and the privilege is so
Yeah.
small, na, ki somebody has a bat and a ball. That is the privilege.
Correct.
It's what does a bat and a ball cost?
Correct.
But you couldn't afford that bat and a ball as
Correct.
parents within the certain strata of society. You couldn't afford to buy that bat and ball for your kid.
Correct.
So that kid would depend on somebody else's
Correct.
kid who had a bat and a ball, and that kid, if he's an asshole,
Correct.
he तो फिर गया आपको कभी
Correct.
batting like
But eventually that we never played cricket as such. But that eventually that bullying gets to you. Like sometimes when the patterns change in those relationships, then those kids get left out. So
But
that
they never
also could
forget.
happen.
Children
Yeah.
never forget. I'll tell you this because I was with a school friend, and they used to stay somewhere in Shastri Nagar, and he was telling me that ये लड़का तो ना ये हमेशा बैट लेके आता था, नीचे खेलता था, और फिर ना वो अपना बैट और बॉल लेके चला जाता था. I am so मतलब kicked about taking names, but I'm not going to because I would like to retain all the friends I have.
I used to
But
have,
this is something which somebody is telling you when he's past his
Correct.
40.
Correct.
And it is a memory which is like,
Correct.
it's burnt into his head. He's
Yeah.
saying like, boss, ये है ना तभी कैसा था यार, ये ना बैट लेता था, बैटिंग लेता था. And this is the exact tone in which he's saying with
Correct.
pathos and everything in it. And he's saying it like this. बैट लेके आता था, बॉल लेके आता था, और ना अपना बैटिंग करके चला जाता था. रे ये ऐसा था मालूम है. And this guy is standing there, some school alumni lunch or dinner or something, is like saying, talking about somebody else like that.
No, but entitlement plays such a this thing. We had one friend in our building. He's quite sweet now, but when we were younger, we used to go to call him to play. Okay. So when we used to go to call him to play, he would make us arrange his books, do my homework, put those 3 lines there, I just need to finish, to make sure that he could come and play with us. So his work would be pending. We would finish his work and then he would come to play with us. So after a year or so, all of us realized that he used to make us do this. So we stopped calling him to play. Then he used to come on his own. And he used
But
to be...
एक साल उसने निकाला, काम
और
निकाला
उसका
फ्री में.
cheating कैसा था मालूम है? If you're playing Sakhari, for example, you do this. He would argue, you didn't touch me. You touched my hand. म्हणजे, obviously, मतलब you are your hand. Then there would be this whole metaphysical discussion on
What is the
hand
hand?
is you or not. Like that's now you read Nityanand for this kind of nonsense. But my hand is not me. Is my knee me? So then they brought up a rule saying body के नीचे है तो हाथ लगे तो भी no, not out. And but मतलब random nonsense कुछ भी for any this thing. Then when the tables are turned, they want to put all the rules in place. So
But-
we used to do quite a bit of this.
So this cheating thing, what I realized, I was having this discussion with a friend, and I said, look, when we were kids, there were no fixed rules. There were rules actually, and everybody knew those rules, but there was always this 1 or 2 kids who would want to subvert those rules.
Correct.
And try to get an advantage. So there were people who were cheating. This was what happening. That is something which doesn't happen with kids anymore, because they're playing video games, and in video games nobody is setting the rules. It's a software.
Correct.
And that software is setting those rules. तो वो out हो गया या कोई तुम्हारा soldier मर गया तो मर गया. You
Correct.
can't tell the video game ki boss मेरा soldier मरा नहीं
No,
है.
but there still continue to be entitled kids, even like today. Even if you're playing, it may not happen in video games, but if you're playing, like my son has a lot of friends, and I know that some of his friends, he feels cheated in some interactions with some of his friends, and he'll say, "Arey, he's always doing this," and he was always, when it's his den, he always does this, and so there is always that feeling that you are being shortchanged for something, although he's not able to name it. We come to realize it much later that you're being taken advantage of. At that point, you don't realize it, but the point being that even today, this thing, and interestingly, like even when people say that they don't only play video games, today the format is very different. Like my son plays with his friends, but plays through that platform. So actually they are talking to each other, and actually they are laughing, and actually so it's almost like a real experience, but they are doing it through a video game. So it's not the lack of human company. So he wouldn't do it alone.
It's a lack of human contact actually.
Yeah. And
this company is there, but
correct,
there is no real contact.
correct.
No,
He
no
will not
physical
play that
contact.
game alone.
Right.
He needs his friends to play. Like even the brother and sister, they play Roblox in different rooms. but they are talking to each other. They are continuously talking to each other. So that is a very different experience. We don't know. Only they can tell us when they grow up what that growing up like that is like.
But my point was, my point was this, that right now, even when they are playing it, none of them can cheat.
Correct.
You know, so that I meant it in terms of bonding actually, you know, that there is no, वो आप किसी के साथ मारामारी करोगे, उसके साथ दोस्ती करोगे, अपना खाना दोगे, all that is what constitutes a friendship.
Correct.
You know, now it's like, yeah, and most of these kids are playing video games all the time.
Correct.
You know, if they're spending time, a lot of them are playing video games.
Correct.
What I see is that after the pandemic, I see children down, and because I think they've suddenly realized that
Correct.
value, probably.
Correct.
So this is happening, and this is what is making these kids probably lonelier, you know. I mean, as you grow up, I said was, like my view of friendship has always been that you can only be friends with people with whom you do a lot of nothing.
Correct.
You know, that's why, like, if you, like, people spend lives in corporate, you know, they like, I spent 3.5 years, I made one friend who's still very good friends with me. But otherwise, it's very difficult to make friends in corporate, because that kind, you never do nothing, you know, you always, even if you're not competing, you're just passing each other, or you're not like going. And this friend also, I made it because every Saturday, Sunday, I used to be in Delhi, I was alone. He also, I mean, we, both of us used to either go and play golf at somewhere in Siri Fort, or we'll go and go bowling, or we'll go for a film. And that is how you become friends, and that is how you stay
Correct.
friends. You know, within that office circuit, you don't really stay friends, because
Correct.
either you are competing, or whatever that reason might be. So I find that that is one thing which is not happening with children, where you don't have an opportunity to cheat. तुम्हारा जो अंदर का जो मतलब कुत्तापन है वो निकलता ही नहीं है.
Correct.
And that other guy who's fair and you are not, or maybe that guy is like that and you are not.
Correct.
You know, so that thing doesn't happen anymore.
No,
And
it
that-
could be, because I know that there is exchange of Robux currency. Then someone says, "Arey, you give me that, then I'll give you." Then you take that money and then you don't pay back with whatever you were supposed to pay back. So all that happens. That I don't think, if a child wants to cheat, there are innumerable ways to cheat. And if they don't want to cheat, so one doesn't know until they have interacted between themselves what the dynamics are. But there is a lot of this happening. You do my homework, you do my project work, I'll help. Let's sit on a project and then not do anything. And the girl, I know that my son does this. कि 3-4 लोग एक ग्रुप में आ रहे, she'll do, yeah, she's very fast at this. I don't know how to do it. He'll say, she's doing now, don't worry. All these girls want to work extra, let her do. So he will put his 5 points and send it to her and say, you are doing it. And then he'll say, whatever I do, she will make faces at it. So the girl also says, हाँ ठीक है, I'll only do now. So I said, you try to improve yourself, no? She's doing now, chill now, what is the problem? She's
Actually,
a perfectionist, so let her do.
I used to do this in my MBA actually. Because I was there once, I was in the business school. I said, ये तो नहीं करना है मेरे को
Correct.
life में, ये नहीं होने वाला है मेरे से, you know. And then luckily there's a guy who was just behind me or something. He wanted to be a topper and eventually topped and went to McKinsey or whatever. So he was there, and then, you know, and some of them were his friends, or everybody wanted to be friends with him or whatever. तो उन लोग जो 3-4 लोग थे, and I was always in that group, you know, where one of the guys is a topper or wants to be a topper. तो वो करता था बेचारा बैठ के, because there's no choice. And it was not that I didn't want to work, but I just felt, यार बॉस,
Correct.
ये अभी अपने से नहीं हो रहा है, ये
Correct.
कोर्स नहीं हो रहा है. But you got in, and you know, got into a good school and वो सब. So that happens, you know. So now, what are the first thing, the other thing that I remember of this is this whole community feeling that used to be there, you know, particularly during Ganpati and
Yeah.
Navratri. And Navratri though is dead in Bombay.
Correct.
Which is like so sad. I mean, I am not so much of a God believer or something, but I love festivals.
Correct.
And I love the cultural part of festivals. And I really miss things like Navratri. I miss the Ganpati vibe that used to be there. Now
Correct.
everybody has their own Ganpati.
Correct.
And अभी मेरा एक private Ganpati हो गया है. वो
Correct.
मैं 1.5 दिन में जाके डुबा के आएगा.
Correct.
You know, so people who have not seen what Tilak probably started with that
Correct.
intention or not, I don't know, but then it actually got communities together, got
Correct.
people together. You know, it was not really very religion based like people are right now. It was not
Correct.
like that. So what are your memories of, these particular festivals? Like even Dahi Handi, for example, it used to be completely different then.
Yeah.
People, we see it today also, and now we see only these lower class kids trying to make money, and they're
Correct.
practicing through. It's become that kind of a. Even then, it must be there. Maybe I didn't notice it, that it was more money driven, but it used to be different, and there used to be this whole crowd cheering you on and pouring water from top.
Correct.
और वो सब अभी इतना नहीं होता है.
नहीं.
You know, so what is
Although
this
in Dadar you do,
shift?
so with Dahi Handi, I know very well. Dahi Handi was a very different festival for us because my father was a dentist and my father had his busiest days of the month after Dahi Handi because kids used to go up, young men of marriageable age, fall down, destroy their teeth, come for treatment. तो मतलब maximum busy schedule used to be after Dahi Handi. My father would always say कि अरे Dahi Handi अभी हुआ है, lot of work for me now. क्योंकि मतलब weird मतलब दांत टूट के जबान में निकल गए, मतलब very complicated things used to happen after that. The children have literally like 17-year-old, 18-year-old, then they couldn't talk because जबान में कुछ you banged and you've like hurt your, you couldn't talk. So शादी होने वाला है अभी 24 साल का है, शादी नहीं हो सकता because of this now. So for us Dahi Handi was a very different, and we because of this we have very like a lot of fear of Dahi Handi. But Dadar Parel, they still celebrate Dahi Handi quite avidly. We also go to check हमारे गली का जो दही हंडी होता है वो 7-8 groups of people come to break it every year, and we always go to see. Water and all nobody throws now. Last few years, maybe I have become older so nobody throws balloons at me, but water balloons पहले बहुत डालते थे लड़कियों पे.
Very dangerous.
हाँ, अभी मुझ पे नहीं डालते वो, मतलब so I have been spared that. I have now officially moved out of that bracket of I think being thrown water balloons at. But so Dahi Handi, there is still some action. There is loudspeaker. सुबह 7 बजे से रात को 10 बजे तक लाउडस्पीकर चलता है हमारे यहाँ दही हंडी के दिन. रिपब्लिक डे, इंडिपेंडेंस डे, Dahi Handi. 3 days we have like loud music. Depending on the occasion, songs are also the same. Ganpati, we have a Magh Ganeshotsav. So our gully hosted a Ganeshotsav in February. And it used to be it was like a community thing because all the buildings in our gully, all the residents used to participate in it very wholeheartedly. They continue to participate in it wholeheartedly. Even now, the people from the chawls and even our kids, like although we are not part of it anymore, but our kids, when there is Ganeshotsav, there is no gate, privacy, personal security of building as opposed to road. Because that whole road is milling with people. My kids will go under the stage, go to this thing for prasad, again and again go for darshan to get prasad out of the people and stuff like that. So it's like the mahol is very festive because a lot of people are there. All the building kids come out to play. Till I think 4 years ago, there used to be record dance where the gullies kids would come and dance. I have participated in that record dance when I was a kid. My father would be called as jury member to one of the jury members to give prizes. Then there is a drawing competition, and it's a very festive atmosphere. We have the people on the committee are people we've seen growing up and have been there for many years. Earlier there used to be film screenings. So all the big parda films that I have seen are mostly from the 7 days of Ganeshotsav. And as for the rest of it, my house has always had a community feel because my father used to be a dentist. Because he was a dentist, people thought he's a doctor only. So they would come with random things like a chest x-ray. Dekho zara doctor, what is the problem? Doctor has told me to do this, what is it exactly? So a lot of medical, like what we do on Google now, they used to come to my house to ask कि मुझे खांसी हो रहा है, इधर दर्द हो रहा है, मैं क्या किसके पास जाऊँ मैं? So then my father would say कुलकर्णी के पास जाओ, whatever. Then his prescription would be brought back to us and say क्या बोला है वो exactly समझा के बताओ. So a lot of that used to happen. So everyone knew my father and they would come to him for advice or whatever it is. And so that community feeling was very strong. Besides this, we were a ground floor apartment. Cricket chalti thi ghar pe, to ghar pura bheed lagta tha hamare ghar mein. And I don't know if I've told you this, but the drawing room window would always have to be open. We could have closed it, but we never closed it. And random men used to stand in our window and watch. And they used to tell us to move aside in our own house. Madam, thoda baju. Matlab, we used to be like, and when we became 13 or 14, my parents would say, व्यवस्थित कपडे घाला. People will come to watch cricket match now.
Wear proper clothes,
Huh.
otherwise, yeah.
So
People
we
will come
couldn't
to
wear
watch.
shorts at home because of Ramayana, Mahabharat. For Ramayana and Mahabharat, there used to be hordes in our
How
house
can you
sitting.
watch Ramayana and Mahabharata in shorts, Janhavi? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that would
blasphemy,
be.
you know.
But at that time we had to have a bath also. क्यों पता है? Because
Yeah.
till 9 o'clock to
But that
10:30
was
that
a crazy
Ramayana was
time
on.
with Ramayana
Correct.
and Mahabharata. I mean, people used to sit with aartis and
Correct.
people can't, I mean, one cannot, this generation
Cannot
can't imagine
comprehend
this,
that.
cannot
Correct.
comprehend that
But-
level of what television serial mania was.
We didn't do puja and all that. But there is a dharmashala in front of our building. This dharmashala gets cancer patients from across the country who come to Tata Cancer for treatment. Their relatives stay there. So because you go for chemo, you come back, 7 days you wait, you go back again, you come back. So lot of people from Bihar, from places I've never even heard of, would come to our house and they would sit there and they first used to crowd outside the house. Crowd मतलब पूरा street भर जाता था. Like जहाँ तक ऑडियो सुनाई दे वहाँ तक लोग खड़े रहते थे. So after that my father started saying, many of them are patients, many of them let the women at least come inside the house. So the women then started coming into the house. So around 40-45 women in one 10 by 10 room sitting with us. Now because they came, we couldn't go for a bath and everything. So we had to sit ready with a bath at 9 in the morning on a Sunday because random people are going to come and sit. And then the men would all stand behind. And I remember that when Uttar Ramayana started, like Uttar Ramayana was after Ramayana finished, there was one Love Kushka this thing, which was shown
that
on
was also very
Friday.
popular.
It was shown on Friday night from 9 to 10. उसके लिए हमारे घर में इतना crowd होता था, my father couldn't come back from work and enter the house. So my father would sit on the taki outside our building till Ramayana got over. This is the extent of inconvenience we have gone through because someone it was like a social service almost.
Yeah.
So this whole community feeling of sharing your resource, if it is there, then so that feeling was very strong in my parents, and that's why we've also been pulled into it, although we've never wanted to be pulled into it. But we are also part of it. So now everyone calls me baby or Janu. And my kids find it very funny because they say, baby kya hai? You're 44 years old now. But they don't understand that they've seen me from the time I was a baby.
Right.
For them, it's like Doctoranchi Moti, Doctoranchi Choti. So 2 daughters, Moti, Choti, Janu ki Tanu. And most of them cannot differentiate between me and my sister. But they know this is the house, that there is
That
some...
we watch TV.
And there is loyalty towards that house or we feel...
Right.
Like that. So that community feeling still exists.
Yeah.
And a lot of the young boys who we used to earlier call mawalis, but they are doing very good work with the locality. They are keeping it clean. They are working towards it. They are now a little politically conscious. So they work. They go to the BMC offices to get work done. So a lot of that feeling is very constant there, continues to be there. Although they are loud, they do every Tuesday, they do aarti for 1.5 hours, which is a big pain. I mean, this whole love for Ganpati has to be shown on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. And jor se aarti. And the one time I complained in all my status of saying, I have exams. What are you guys doing? Reduce the volume of your aarti. They started doing it in double the volume. Matlab, tu kaun hai?
Yeah, that used to happen.
I had to shut up and forever. Never complain about it.
Yeah.
So that way it's very...
There was... sorry.
No, so that way it's that feeling is very strong.
So there was this thing which I think, which we were very lucky as a generation, that is what I personally feel, is that we saw a life of almost zero resources. Not zero, but almost zero resources. To the kind of life we see now, that we have a phone and it has everything in it, like how it started for all of us, I'm sure it's there in your book too, is that there is no TV at home.
Correct.
So that time there is this one privileged house, whose house you go to see TV. And that happens with you later.
Correct.
But I'm saying that there you go TV. Then your parents get a black and white TV.
Correct.
Okay, that runs for almost 8-10 years. Then you get a color TV, and you black and white TV, you give it to someone, he runs it for another bloody 10,
Correct,
15 years.
correct.
So then you take a color TV. With that color TV, then suddenly that VCR comes in. So VCR aata hai, first you get VCR on rent.
Correct.
Then you get it, then you somehow end up buying your own VCR, or later this whole DVD players and VCR, VCD, which were very cheap.
Correct.
VCRs were very expensive. I mean, they were very expensive equipment because they used to come from abroad. So, and then you get the TV. Then there was no music you can't listen to like we are listening to now.
Correct.
कि जो चाहिए सुन लिया, YouTube पे गया या Spotify पे गया, किधर भी जाना है गया.
Correct.
और सुन लिया, गाना पे गया and सुना. That was not the norm anymore.
Correct.
You know, you go there, you bloody
जो लगा वो लगा.
जो लगा वो लगा.
छाया गीत.
छाया गीत. तुमको सुनने का है, you make a mixtape.
But imagine that way, because we've grown up like this. Today when I have a Spotify, I don't know what to listen to. So much choice. I don't know, yaar. Rahat hai Fateh Ali Khan. I don't know. Now I'm getting very.
And you don't get what you want also. Matlab, you have to keep searching. Maybe
Correct.
we are not that techno savvy, you know, because maybe this generation gets it, you know. But I'm like, I don't like
No,
technology.
and how
so
do you
much. I go
discover
to
new
YouTube.
music then?
I go to YouTube. I never go to, because I also like to see the video of that song.
Correct.
That's my problem. I don't know. But I can never just, no, if I'm driving, it's okay. But otherwise, I want to see the video of that song, you know,
Correct.
along with whatever. Because there's some memory, some nostalgia probably attached to that
Correct.
video because of Doordarshan and whatever. So there's this whole range that we had to go through to reach, right from music, like mixtapes, if you remember.
Correct.
So like in this case, there was this shop called Ganesh Audio in Thane station. एकदम ऐसा थाना स्टेशन को लग के वो गणेश ऑडियो करके था. So you take your tape. He doesn't give you a tape.
TDK 90 minutes.
TDK 90 minutes. बराबर. सोनी का भी आता ना.
हाँ.
There used to be a Sony tape and a TDK 90 के. तुम गया उसके पास बोला इसमें कितना गाना आएगा. So he'll tell you कितना गाना आएगा. He'll divide by 5 probably and say 45 गाना आएगा. इधर आगे 22 आएगा, पीछे मैं adjust कर लेगा. That's what he'll tell you. And then he will make that. You give him money and you bought the tape for 50. You give him another 50. So that he finds those songs from wherever that you give him a list of the songs, and then those songs he'll record on that tape, on that cassette, you know, and then you go to your tape recorder and you play it, and then somebody like, and I remember that there was this girl in our group called Sucheta. She had a double tape recorder.
That also was
तो
one
वो
big
एक बार
craze.
तुमने बना दिया, फिर उसका एक 100 कॉपी घर पे बन जाता था. उसको दे दो, फिर वो दूसरे दिन आके तुमको लाके देगी.
हम लोग पता है भजन के कैसे के ऊपर टिकली लगा के उस पे भी रिकॉर्ड करते थे.
हाँ, ये भी होता था.
ऊपर टिकली, माँ का टिकली लेके बिंदी लगा के उस पे, so it could be recorded then. We used to record on that also.
Yeah, they used to actually put a tape, sellotape across that
Correct,
record. There is a recording tab.
Correct.
If you remove that,
Correct.
you know,
You can't overwrite it.
you cannot overwrite. But you could just put a sellotape on it, on those areas, and these are like, now I'm sure nostalgia is like that. No, nostalgia seems fun in this. You know, that's what I feel like. What my view on memory, for example, is that when you are in that memory, you know, like I was running on that pipeline, for example. So what was I running on the pipeline? What was I seeing actually?
Correct.
What am I seeing when I'm running on a pipeline? I'm just seeing my feet probably. I didn't have a paunch like I have one now. So वो तो नहीं दिख रहा है, and you can see in the pipeline in front, and you can see the sky and probably the kid who is running in front of you. But now when I'm imagining it, that memory is completely cinematic.
Correct.
You know, there's a drone somewhere above. It's a drone shot now. You know?
Correct.
So when it's a drone shot and the drone shot is going back, the drone is flying back, and I'm running and I can see my face.
Correct.
I can see everything and I'm running. Correct. It's a strange thing, memory. You know how everything becomes cinematic in memory.
Correct.
So that's.
In fact, my mom, when she went into her sasural in Kurla, she went with a transistor. Because my mother, even today, till date, she wakes up, the first thing she does is put the radio on. वो सुबह में वो विविध भारती लगा के रात को बेला फेंक के फूल सुन के सोती है वो. So even in Kurla, she would take her transistor. My grandfather hated music. So he would say, what is this Ram Bharose Hindu Hotel के जैसा पूरा दिन गाना चलता रहता है. So eventually when they moved out, but when my mom lived on her own, we have literally woken up to Vivid Bharati in the morning at 6 o'clock. She will put that on and she will go to brush, to bathe, cook. Everything happens in the with the radio on. So the idea of learning new music, so I don't have a sense of what my personal taste in music is, because full time we've only heard what she has put. And then my father would bring some Ghulam Ali or Mehdi Hasan tape and we would listen to that. And so your muscle memory where music is concerned becomes so different than if you are only hearing what you would like to hear. Then we grew up, we went to friend ka tape laya, then Michael Jackson suna, फिर Grammy का top 10 का tape आया, फिर वो सुना, then you learn how to this thing, and so even that is not your own music actually. Today I listen to Talat Mehmood, but my earliest memory of listening to Talat Mehmood is my Vasai Kaki, who used to put Talat Mehmood songs in the night before sleeping. And she knew all the Talat Mehmood songs. And now when I need to think about it, so the person becomes the connect to the music you're listening to.
Right.
So today when you look at Spotify, you don't want to randomly listen to, say, कि आज राहत फतेह अली खान, then the connections get lost somewhere, I feel. For us, it's even the pauses on the tapes we would know कि कितने टाइम में शुरू होगा.
कितनी बार सुना है उसको ना.
Yeah, the best song would be on the first of the cassette and the first or the second cassette. तो झक मार के पूरा cassette सुनना पड़ता है to come to that point, right? तो वो भी timing बराबर मालूम था कि ये खटके पे बंद करोगे, वहाँ पे दूसरा गाना शुरू होगा. Then turn the cassette.
Now if you want to actually help any kid understand linear and digital, this is what it was, you know, this is what linear is.
Correct.
यार बैठा analog and digital actually.
Correct.
कि भाई ये सुनना है तुमको, या तो तुम उसको forward
नहीं
it doesn't
करना.
bloody go and stop at that point, na.
Correct.
So you still have to listen to some, last 30-40 seconds of some song. It's a terrible feeling actually then.
Correct.
So you have to be very careful in choosing those 45 songs.
Correct.
If you don't choose those 45 songs properly, then it doesn't work, Then you are like, अरे ये भी सुनना पड़ेगा.
My father, I remember when Takshak released. Takshak had that मुझे रंग दे. That was the first song, okay? The rest of the songs were ऐसे ही कुछ भी. At the end there was, but on the other side of that cassette was Takshak and another Rahman film, Tal, I think. So, my father, we used to have to jabardasti listen to this song called Jumbalika, okay? Which is like, nobody's heard of that song.
No,
तो
it's a very famous song.
बहुत vague है मतलब, वो ऐसा कुछ bestseller है. तो my father, who has no concept of who Rahman is, who Takshak is, whatever. Once he was sitting, Jumbalika, and me and my sister were saying, my God, I can't imagine Baba singing this song. He would say, Jumbalika. I said, what are you singing? What is wrong with you? But for him to have, osmosis ke through sun ke, he's automatically singing it, and such a random song. But yeah, that's how, but all of us heard the same music.
Yeah.
Today, everyone has their own ways to hear.
That's how you become lonelier, right? I mean, that's what I feel is how you become lonelier. But the thing I feel is that, which I think you touched upon, which is that English songs were a class differentiator.
Yes.
That the whole idea for us to listen to English songs was that I am going to jump up a little in class by listening to English songs. That was nothing else. I am living in a bloody 200-250 square feet house in Yashodan Nagar surrounded by slums, but I want to make that jump.
Correct.
And that jump is by listening to an English song, which is Wham, or then it was Michael Jackson and Wham, and like Pet Shop Boys, and I remember all these names. But because those songs were there, and there was some friend who would be listening to them, and you used to feel, अरे ये सुनता है मतलब अपने को भी सुनना चाहिए. And I remember, I think it was Sushil from my school, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And वो तो कोई तो सुनता था मेरे स्कूल से, तो मैं फिर वो लेके मतलब then I used to get this. I think Bad was that Michael Jackson album which was there. तुम्हारा कोई लेना देना नहीं है. You haven't even seen Michael Jackson's videos. Correct. Like right now you can see that Bad was a great video and Thriller is a great thing. But then you had nothing to do with it. You're this bloody lower class boy who was probably पता नहीं तुम क्या करेगा. That is the kind of thing.
हम लोग in fact lyrics भी किसी को नहीं मालूम थे.
लिरिक्स तो समझते ही नहीं थे बॉस. लिरिक्स तो समझते ही नहीं थे. वो माइकल जैक्सन आज भी क्या बोलता है मेरे को समझता नहीं था. So there was this magazine called Sun, if I'm not mistaken. There was some rock magazine which used to send you the lyrics also of some songs.
Okay.
तो वो मैं जमा करता था.
अच्छा.
And listen it. And that whole jama karna thing, I'll tell you. I don't know whether you remember whether you were slightly younger or whatever. But there used to be this Melody Chocolate.
Yeah.
Okay. And Melody Chocolate ka when it was launched in India, the thing was that you could collect 10 wrappers and they would send you one Disney sticker.
Achha.
And I had those stickers till about I think 5-7 years back. I found them somewhere and I don't know, I may still have them somewhere in my Thana home. So me and my friend Nilesh, we used to be walking to school and just picking up melody wrappers. क्योंकि
Correct.
इतना पैसा तो था नहीं, हम लोग मेलोडी तभी भी
Correct.
महंगा था यार.
Correct.
एक दो खा सकता है दिन में, उससे ज्यादा का औकात नहीं था. So we used to actually search for melody wrappers and collect them, and then we have that and then send them. Then you have to send it them by post.
Correct.
फिर वो post, but वो आता था.
अच्छा.
मतलब अगर तुमने भेजा है उतना तो वो उतना तेरे को they used to send you proper nice stickers of Disney animals, like Goofy and Pluto and everybody they used to send, and it was that was amazing. Do you have any such memories of collecting stuff?
we used to collect gold spot sticker. वो gold spot के बिल्ले के
बिल्ले के
अंदर
पीछे.
एक foam का कुछ रहता था for Jungle Book. We got
Right, I
Jungle
remember
Book,
this. And
these
if you
things.
collected all of them,
Correct.
then you could get a Jungle Book comic.
Yeah, you could get first got an album to stick it in.
Right.
And this thing, I was not consistent at all. My cousin used to do it quite quite regularly, but I remember collecting a few and then losing interest. But I remember कि gold spot, तो तभी हम लोग energy से shift to gold spot हुए. जब ये gold spot के बिल्ले का ये आया, तब we shifted from RA energy. That time we used to tell my mother, RA energy I don't want, I want gold spot, because gold spot के अंदर वो बिल्ला आता है. तो वो हम बिल्ला पिकअप करने के लिए we used to do that. But I don't remember doing it with any sort of consistency. वो कुछ किया नहीं है.
But it used to be, this is a kind of a sad memory for me, and probably I learned from it, because even today, after all those years, in the last 40 years, I generally don't waste even if you see my plate anytime that I eat, it will always be very clean. It will generally be very clean. I mean, it's like in all these years, kabhi kavar kabhi chhod diya galti se, because but that is not happened. So this memory is something to do with this, something like this, which is like, once I remember, and resources are limited at that point in time. And your parents want to do the best for you. I think my parents are amongst the best parents that I could ever got. So they did whatever they could do for me. So what the thing is, once we had gone to this restaurant in Thane station. It's a very famous restaurant called Kunjavihar.
Okay.
And I was with my father, and I said, he said, I'll have a thumbs up. So he bought the thumbs up. And thumbs up was what do you call it? मतलब तुम यार 300 ml का बॉटल था, तुम छोटा बच्चा है, तुम 100 ml में तुम्हारा हो गया.
Correct.
And I drank about 100 or 150 ml and I had enough. And I said, nahi, ho gaya karke. And I kept it. And this is so, I remember it so vividly, this thing. And I kept it and I said, ho gaya. And my father was really distraught. I mean, he was really distressed. He was, इसको पूरा पैसा लगने वाला है और तू पी नहीं रहा है. And somehow that never registered then, but some years later or whatever, or probably a couple of years later when you're more conscious of things, I remembered this and I said, boss, ये हुआ था, ये गलत हुआ था, जो भी था ये, because probably my father at that point didn't have, it was a big decision for him to buy you a thumbs up. Probably it was. We were never poor. I mean, it's stupid to believe that we were even poor. But it was a decision at that point in time. So, and then you didn't drink it, and it doesn't work that way, and
I think our parents prioritized their money to a very large extent, in the sense that they had this scale that this is good enough to spend on and this is not good enough to spend on, and they were not fluid about, like, I also have a scale, but I am little fluid. I feel कि जाने दो 15 रुपए इसके लिए के बजाय इसके ऊपर you can spend, as long as you are spending, it doesn't matter. But they were not like that. They had that whole value system about spending, and the value they find in the money they are spending was very vague. So it was very difficult to convince them of spending in certain cases.
Yeah.
It's in the book, but shoes. School ka shoes फट गया. Uniform का shoes है. It is December. My father will say, we'll buy it next year now. 4 months I have to go to school. Your foot will increase. Now Diwali vacation के बाद. Then Diwali में अभी पैर बढ़ने वाला है ना, so we'll wait. So like I'm wearing those with the hole, वो hole बड़ा होके पूरा shoe फट गया. Whatever, in the note, the PT teacher said, you please wear, otherwise get a note from your parents. My father wrote a note saying, we can't afford to buy shoes.
No, but that was a fact. I mean, he was not lying either.
But he could have afforded to buy shoes. Hello. It's not like they couldn't afford to have shoes. But at that point, to spend that money on those shoes was not agreeable to him at that.
Yeah, but I don't think that would have been the case in a lot of people I knew around that time.
अच्छा.
Because I think they couldn't have, मतलब वो shoe है वो जून में लिया है.
हाँ.
You know, like I used to have a restaurant, you know, and what you will notice in the restaurant business is that in June, for example, your restaurant business falls. May and June or something, because that is when parents are buying books, are
Correct.
buying shoes, are buying, even
Correct.
today that happens. And there is a certain kind of drop in restaurant sales in June particularly, which is like amazing for me. Matlab,
Correct.
it's something which you don't think about.
Correct.
And then it's just there, you know. That is, so I think there's this one thing which I think we discussed earlier when the mics were not on, and that is Kumar Gaurav. I mean, nobody in there would today believe that what a big star Kumar Gaurav
Correct.
was. I mean, I think after Rajesh Khanna, if anybody saw that female frenzy, it was Kumar Gaurav.
Correct.
I don't think anybody, even Amir and Shahrukh, never saw that frenzy, you know. And nobody even remembers Kumar Gaurav today, which is so bloody sad, you know. Last I saw him was in Kati, I think.
Correct.
And what, do you have any specific memory?
No, I remember that I had older cousins who exposed me to a lot of interesting things. They were very sporty and physically active and outdoorsy. And they were very street smart. So these two older cousins, Beena Tai and Rashmi Tai, they stayed in Parel, which was like near to our house, and they would cycle everywhere. So they would drop into our house quite often. And because they would say, cycle hai chal, you want to come to Dadar West, I want to buy some nonsense. Then I would sit on the back of the cycle and we would go buy her stuff, and she would drop me back home. Sometimes she would say, come to stay at our place. I must have been in second standard, third standard, 7, 8 years old. And I remember at that point, Betab, for example, Betab I watched on their terrace. वीडियो लाके वो चौल के बच्चों ने, उनके चौल के बच्चों ने वीडियो लाके टेरेस पे वीडियो बेताब का स्क्रीनिंग was there. And I remember this was the first this thing to video. Till then, I think I must have watched only Superman in the theater, but otherwise I had not watched any films. So they were very like outdoorsy, and they were very street smart, video bhade pe lao, and you know, negotiate with people, and they were very cool cousins. So they were very crazy about Kumar Gaurav. Like for them, he was like the dude. And I think that Love Story had released at that time, and the songs were like everywhere. Now in those days, in Ganpati, they used to play film songs.
Right.
They didn't play bhakti music now like they do. Now you just hear the same 30 Ganpati songs over and over again. That time they used to play film songs.
Yeah.
So this Love Story songs, full day used to play.
Whole day used to play songs.
Love Story, and what was that other film? There were 2-3 films of Kumar Gaurav, the songs
Star.
of which were very...
no, that was...
Star also.
Star also, no, that Poonam Dillan film with...
Love 86.
No, Love 86 was not Kumar Gaurav. It was Govinda.
That was, that was Rohan Kapoor.
Rohan Kapoor and Govinda, basically. That was a different film.
But Rohan Kapoor is a lookalike for Kumar Gaurav.
Yeah.
So that chap is there. Ki wo type ka look was very much cool that time, I think. But there was another film, I remember, Ye Zami Ga Rahi Hai used to play 40 times during the day. Full day.
That film, that is the film I'm talking about.
And another film where he is wearing these very short white shorts.
What film was that? Where it was Tere Naam, no, not Tere Naam, Naam something.
Naam is...
Naam, no, nahi. That
Naam is the Mahesh Bhatt film.
Anyway, we'll put it in the show notes. I mean, that film. So, that was Kumar Gaurav was something which, it doesn't register. That was...
Did you know Kumar Gaurav is Rajendra Kumar's son?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this produced Love Story, you know. Rajendra Kumar produced Love Story.
Correct.
And then he produced Naam, thinking कि boss ये हो जाएगा और ये वापस star बन जाएगा. And then Sanjay Dutt took all the credit.
Correct.
And then Kumar Gaurav never recovered. So he made a film called Fool.
Yes,
with Madhuri
later
Dixit.
on. Yeah.
With Madhuri Dixit.
Yeah.
And that film to bombed like nobody's business, I think.
That film had that song.
Fool.
Saal ke. No. That Saal ke 12 mahine. Which was a rip-off of 1, 2, 3. Because 1, 2, 3 and up to whatever 26 she keeps singing.
Right.
There is a song in Fool which is Saal ke 12 mahine, 12
mahine ka saal.
Then she does January, February. So my father used to say कि ये बच्चों को सिखाने के लिए अच्छा है सब. 1
But
to
the kid has to
26
sing the everything, na?
Correct.
मतलब अरे तू मेरे को 12 महीने का tell me what is January 12 months in a year. He'll have to say साल के 12 महीने में साल. Then he'll sing January, February. I think teachers don't seem to get it that he's not going to say January, February. He's not going to start with that. He has to
Yeah.
sing the whole song, you know. And then this whole thing about films in the middle of the street, you know, which was I think
Yeah.
it was that's a phenomenal thing.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal thing because I mean like you said before, like during Ganpati and Navratri particularly, Navratri में एक दो picture ही होता था,
Correct.
Ganpati में रोज होता था picture.
Correct.
And then it used to be like in my area, I used to know within a range of like 4 kilometers कौन सा picture किधर दिखाने वाला है. Because at the same time this every Ganpati pandal would be having a film.
Correct. Nee, and they would write on the
Yeah,
board,
yeah, but
na?
the thing is that we used to go searching around. Like वर्तक नगर में 2 जगह पे दिखा रहे.
Correct.
मेरे यशोदन नगर में एक दिखा रहे. बीच में कहीं एक दिखा रहे. पाड़ा नंबर 1 में. So you used to know like 3 नंबर पाड़ा में एक दिखा रहे. So there are 5-7 films. It's like a multiplex if
Correct.
you look at it.
Correct.
It's the first multiplex, you know. Which are like 5 films are showing and now you have to decide बॉस कौन सा पिक्चर देखेगा. You don't have IMDb, you know, you don't have YouTube to see the trailer.
Correct.
So you go everywhere and you check the film. And people don't realize it, but right now I'm not even sure the generation today can realize. But films were analog, right? So they were like film. It was like
Correct.
35mm film.
Correct.
So the projectors can't handle so much. Like a big film is how
Correct.
many? Like probably 8 jumbo rolls or 6 jumbo rolls or whatever they may be. So each roll, and they used to have only one projector.
Correct.
Like what happens in a theater normally is that there are 2 projectors and then एक बंद हो गया तो that's why you don't feel
Get
कि
the break.
कुछ gap है, break है. But in Ganpati Pandals it was
Correct.
not like this.
So they used to wait till it comes.
हाँ,
हाँ.
नहीं वो लाया है. हाँ और कभी कभी ये भी होता था कि that film is running in some other pandal.
अच्छा तो
So
वहाँ से
उसका reel जब खत्म होएगा तो कभी कभी you're waiting for 10 minutes because that second reel has not come. And then वो ऑटो से ला रहा है वो reel. And then you are seeing that. Now this thing is bizarre, you know. And then there was also this one thing which people I don't know whether you remember, but you could see the film from both sides of the screen.
Correct. Yeah.
So, but when you're seeing it from the other side, from where the projector is not there, you're seeing the mirror image of that
Correct.
thing. So you are not, like if anything is written, it was
Correct.
looking
It was ulta. Correct.
And you can't make out that it's only when you see that something written, you realize कि boss, अरे ये तो उल्टा है.
Correct.
ये
No, and so many times the sequence of the reels would be changed.
yeah.
You know, कोई भी बीच में ही climax लगा दिया and you're wondering, hey, what happened? You know, what happened to this plot? And then they would again stop it and then again put it because nobody has seen the film before, so you don't know where the story is going anyway. So it's like majorly कुछ तो अभी तो ये दोनों झगड़ रहे थे अभी एक साथ घूम रहे हैं. Then you realize अरे वो पहले दूसरा reel पहले डाला. That's why when we watch when I watched Pulp Fiction, I was like, this is like गणपति का reel आगे पीछे हो गया.
Yeah.
गणपति का रील आगे पीछे करके डाल दिया है कैसा भी. So it was quite common to have this.
Ganpati Pandals were ahead of Tarantino, basically. That's what you're trying to say.
Correct.
Then another thing which used to happen is because the projector was like in film screens, in normal theaters, projections are on top.
Correct.
You know, so even if you stand, nothing happens. You know, but here projections were like in line of your eye vision.
Correct.
So वो ऐसा लगा कि नीचे से it used to be tilted upwards a little.
Correct.
So if anybody who is sitting down gets up, then
Correct.
his shadow is on that screen.
Correct.
You know, वो उठा है कुछ तो उसको खुजली हुआ कुछ तो हो गया वो उठ गया
चल
और वो
उठ
अपना
इधर
खुजा
जा।
रहा है and you can see his shadow on that screen.
Correct.
खुजा रहा है. You know?
अरे there used to be seating के ऊपर झगड़े और
Of
जो
course.
झगड़ा जो हो रहा है ना तब तक फिल्म बंद होती थी. जोर जोर से झगड़े हो रहे हैं तो ये तू जा इकडून अरे थांबा फिल्म थांबवा then sort out your झगड़ा then we start the so then social pressure on sorting out the झगड़ा would happen कि तुम लोग like you know निपटाओ अभी ये सब and we'll see the film again. So it was quite people used to come with chaddar
Yeah.
with
I used to go to the
खाना
Chennai. Yeah.
नीचे मतलब and they used to sit on the street. There were no chairs, so nobody brought chairs. If you brought chairs, you would have to sit on the side.
Right.
सामने देखना है तुमको तो नीचे सड़क पे बैठ के
एकदम नीचे
देखना.
बैठ के
Correct.
मतलब with the chatai you have to sit
Correct.
at that level. You
Correct.
can't get a stool.
And people used to come to keep their chatais at 8 o'clock. 9 बजे का स्क्रीन बोला है तो वो जब बांधते हैं तब वो आके चटाई डाल के जाते थे अपना सीट रिजर्व करने.
पत्थर रख के जैसे रुमाल रखते थे पहले.
Yeah.
No, I had written a blog on this actually. My first cinematic sexual memory. I don't know whether you read it. Long time back I wrote this cinematic sexual memory करके एक blog लिखा था, which was basically I was watching Amar Akbar Anthony, and I was this 10-year-old kid, and Zabasco, I think that's the name of the villain in that, who is marrying Parveen Bobby. But she is in love with Anthony, who is a bloody drunkard, but she is in that. तभी होता था यार, if you're a drunkard but you're the hero, so I'm in love with you. You know, so वो उसको करे.
He quits but drinking. After he fights with Vinod Khanna, he promises ना अभी इसके हाथ में पीना.
And then Vinod Khanna beat him up. That was the thing. No, so ये हो रहा है उसमें film में, and Parveen Bobby is wearing a slit skirt, and I'm sitting down. I'm this 10-year-old probably who's sitting down and looking upwards like you're saying, because that is the best spot in that thing. And Zabasco is there, and Zabasco is saying, "Tu man, Tony se nahi miloge," whatever shit he's saying, you know, tu man, and he just pulls her and he pushes her, and he pushes her, and she goes sliding down, and her legs part a little, okay, and you see her undergarments. हाँ, तो तुम रेड कलर का उसका पैंटी देखता है, और तुम नीचे बैठा है, 10-12 साल का बच्चा है, और तुम ऐसे देख रहा है, and you're seeing this. And for years, I'm telling you, Janhavi, for years, I believed that I saw that because I was sitting down. If I was sitting even say on the front, you can watch the film from the second floor of your house.
Correct.
Then it was like this, ना पर्दा तुम्हारे घर के सामने, तुम घर से भी there are people watching the film. तो मुझे ये बहुत सालों तक ये ऐसा लगता रहता था कि मैं नीचे बैठा था और मैंने वो देखा. That's why I saw Parveen Bobby's panties. You know? Otherwise, I would have never been able to see them. That is what my thing was. I mean, obviously you grow up, you understand बहुत एक 2D image होता है, एक 3D image होता है, जो भी.
No, but surprisingly, because you talk about this, I remember that they showed Ankush. Ankush जैसा picture at Ganpati, and kids are sitting there, and I remember feeling very disturbed after watching that film.
Oh,
like
really?
it was not at all a happy film for me,
not at all.
And I felt so disturbed after that film, and for days I had nightmares. And now I feel like what idiots they were, yaar, to show such a film where there were so many kids, like Amar Akbar Anthony, Naseeb and all is fine. You forget all the. But Ankush, I remember being very disturbed by it.
Even Pratighat, for that matter. And Chandra's first two films.
Pratighat was not shown there, but Ankush, I remember.
Yeah, but even Pratighat was a very violent film where Sujata Mehta is pulled on the street and she's paraded naked.
Okay.
So it was.
No, I have not seen.
Okay,
Pratighat.
so it was that kind of a film, and it was shown because somehow ये मतलब censoring का कुछ इतना कुछ था नहीं.
क्या मालूम? पर इसमें भी like in
Ankush was a phenomenal film.
Yeah, and there was no nudity or this thing, but the suggestion of the trauma, and it's just very disturbing. And I felt I must have been 7, 8 or something, and I felt very disturbed. And this first feeling of vulnerability as a woman, for the first time I felt that because it is a woman, she went through that.
And as 8-year-old probably.
So for me to imagine that, because there is no rape in Ankush.
No rape shown.
Correct. Nothing is shown, but there is no rape. They don't touch her. They just like strip her and they leave it to your imagination. But it's such a indignity, that indignity is so difficult to digest as a child. I felt, and today I feel how did they even show, and why didn't parents, nobody raised an objection, nobody said anything. My mother would tell, Friday night, late night chalta tha. My mother would say, go to the inside room now, this is adult picture you have. Then we would say, no, we'll lie down here only. We would watch that film. My parents are not least concerned.
Baapre,
and that is because
lucky. I mean,
but my mother thought Artha was an adult's film. Artha Mahesh Bhatt.
No, but this late night film that you're talking about, you have no idea what we had to go through to, see those.
Yeah.
Because we were living in this 2-room houses, small
Correct.
2-room houses, already 8 people living in the house, and then your mom, so you had to sit close to the TV and hope that your parents are asleep, and you're at the peak of your, hormones.
No, we used to have Friday night. We didn't watch. Like if it was German or something, we wouldn't watch it because कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है वो subtitles.
क्योंकि तो picture देखती थी ना. There was a big difference between you and I. You were watching the film. We didn't even know what the film was. Because I remember even the name of this film called Lace Maker. There was a film called Lace Maker then. So, and then you go home with your friends, you're like 13 years old, 12 years old, and you go up and your friends and you discuss it.
Yeah.
Those are the times when you discuss such things.
Yeah.
Like Debonair, for example. It was a crazy time.
Correct.
So that was it. And the debonair incident, I had a friend, we were both of us, I won't take names anymore, but here because his kids might listen. So तभी वो सब है ना, you used to get them in रद्दीवालास.
Correct.
रद्दीवाला और yours, what you're saying is right, because रद्दीवाला ऐसे लगा के रखता था.
Correct.
In display होता था उसका debonair. तो we used to go there, और वो 50 पैसे में तेरे को इसमें देता था, yeah, on rent.
Correct.
You could buy it for 2 rupees or something, and 50 paisa used to be rent.
Correct.
So you could take it home. So what my friend used to do was, अगर उसमें 8 फोटो है तो उसमें से 2 काट देता था वो. काट के इसने he made this whole book
File
full
of her.
yeah porn, मतलब whatever, a soft porn kind of a file here पूरा बना के रखा था. उसका अलग स्टोरी है, वो कभी बाद में नरेट करेंगे. But this is what I think children used to do for that.
Correct.
Nowadays that's what I wonder. Like I think like children, like you don't know as a parent, you don't know what your kids are watching. You know, you might try as much as you can.
Correct.
But how much will you? Because eventually your peers are what matter.
Correct.
You know, so अभी तो क्या देख रहे हैं, कुछ भी देख रहे हैं, they can watch anything, you know.
Correct.
And what impact it's having on their minds.
Correct.
God knows at what
But
they think.
I think that to a certain extent, the access, see, we didn't have access. So we were hungry for it.
Right.
These people have access. They are not
Yeah.
crazy for it. They are not going to go to in like extra lengths to do something. अगर दिख रहा है दिखेंगे नहीं तो छोड़ो. It doesn't. This is not worth getting into trouble over.
बराबर.
So like my son knows that I can track internet history. I can track. So he knows what is possible. What my parents can do, he knows. He doesn't want to go to extra length to maybe perhaps, and that is one this thing. I still don't know. विषयाची परीक्षा अजून घेतलेली नाही. But my point is that there is no. They are not like older nephews and nieces. Na, they are not crazy about these things. Today, what you want, you can see on Instagram also. You don't need to go to a porn site at all.
Right.
You can see everything, and it's all there. They know that it's there, so they don't feel like they should like do anything special for accessing it. So it's that way.
It's also that old economic principle, no? Scarcity creates demand.
Correct.
So if there is no scarcity, then you don't want to see it. Probably
Correct.
you've seen it 4 times, and you say I can see it anytime.
Correct.
That is when you don't see it.
Correct.
That is what is happening with us,
Correct.
right? Because we are saying, I will use this someday. You never use that thing. You keep it, and there are things in my, you know, somewhere top shelf किधर तो ऐसा go down में रखा हुआ है.
Correct.
And I've never used them. But I'm not throwing them out because I'll use them someday.
Sometime, yeah.
So that is, I think that is what is probably happening now. You know, and there's this thing in your book also about drunkards, the story about about drunkards.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll read out a passage because I think we should get to your book a little now. You know, and it says, a few drunkards in our gully added to its charm. Every once in a while, the gully drunkard Madhya would arrive sloshed, staggering to the temple at our doorstep around 10 p.m. or so. Madhya, bang, come out! It was not quite clear whom he was asking to come out. And this is what Madhya was saying, bang, come out! But it was not clear who he was asking to come out. So nobody did. Madhya, I told you now, come out! If you himmat, come out! Some lack of response. There used to be nobody used to respond to Madhya. Madhya, invoking on the, moving on to the drunken slurring, then out of steam for a bit and again, Madhya, mother, bang, blah, blah, blah. My father would then, come out, he's shouting, come out. My father would then open the door. It was Baba's nature to routinely get into things that didn't in the slightest involve him. Baba, bang, Madhya, get lost. You have drunk too much today. Madhya stumped. Now that someone had actually come out. Sorry doctor, I'm going. And just saying this, Madhya used to disappear from there. You know, and this is a real incident in your life.
Yeah.
You know, so you have anything like Madhya, like people like more people like Madhya that you have?
Yeah, there was one Dudwali Aji. So this Aji was this 75-year-old woman, and she used to deliver doodh to people in the morning. That bottle wala doodh, that time there used to be those bottles.
Yeah.
Rationing ka doodh. So she used to get drunk in the night, okay? And it is impossible to imagine that an old woman was getting drunk, but she was drunk every night. And she would come and sit on our doorstep. So her drunkenness was very different, and she would sit there and she would slur something and all that. And my father would come and say, "Kai Aji, as gaadi fast hai vatto." Then we realized gaadi fast means
because she's slurring. As gaadi fast hai, that's what you're saying. It's like
So besides this, we live next to railway quarters, which are like the at the end of our gully. There are these 7-8 buildings where railway officers stay, and there is some very British unique thing about these railway quarters. They have a servant quarters. So the front of the building is where the Maliks stay, and the back of the room, that floor, there is a servant room where servants can stay. So that servant they call it bangla only. Those servants call that house where they work bangla. Banglavar gelere. And then they are staying with their families in that one room. And they are active gully participants who come and go. Now, these servant quarters ka people mein bahut drunkards, like routine. And I was telling you that even till recently, one woman was beating up her husband, completely drunk as a skunk. He is like, she's dragging him on the street, रात को 10:30 बजे, and giving him major galis about how ungrateful he is, how he is like इतनी like अच्छा family है मगर he's wasting his life in drink, and मार के वो husband को घर लेके आ रही थी. And we all continued interest in like squabbles in the gully. We all came to the balcony to see कौन किसको मार रहा है करके. So there drunkards in our gully are a very common thing in our area at least.
Wow.
Because they are and like I said, it's very performative. So they know that people are watching you.
Right,
and there is no sense of privacy or anything. So वो चप्पल निकाल के भी पति को मारेगी वहाँ पे, पति पत्नी को मारेगा, फिर बच्चे आएंगे उनको सेपरेट करेंगे, एक लेके जाएगा, नेबर आएगा कोई तो वहाँ पे क्राउड जमा होगा, कुछ होगा. So it's very performative and everyone has a good time basically, and the next day everything is forgotten. That same man you will see at the दूध वाले का stall buying milk and going home. So it's very common to see that sort of thing in our...
Yeah, but it's actually like this. Like if you have this, people don't notice them in Thane also. But in a place, I started noticing because in the last 4 years I was in Thane looking after my parents. So I used to be on a bike and kuch kaam nahi hai to ghumta tha. And then you suddenly notice there are these stores, small stores with a curtain.
Yes.
Know? And these are these Desi Daru
places.
And you go at 7 in the morning, it's full.
It's full, yeah.
It's bloody full at 7 in the morning. There are people sitting and drinking. I mean, properly. And you go inside. I was like, once I was parked in my car and I'm sitting inside and luckily I've just parked there. And I think it's full. और इतना पानी है अंदर, तभी बारिश हो रहा था बहुत. अंदर इतना सा पानी भी था, about 1 or 2 inches. अंदर बैठे हुए हैं. And they're discussing probably, politics or economics or finance. And God knows what they're discussing there. And they're discussing in all seriousness and intensity and, trying to solve the world's problems. और साथ में वो 5 रुपए 6 रुपए में वो दारू का बॉटल मिलता है. वो अपना दारू पी रहा है और देश का प्रॉब्लम डिस्कस कर रहा है शायद.
You know when that 26/7 happened, the flooding happened.
Yeah.
There was one drunkard in our gully who died in the water. You know how he died? He was coming drunk home. That time the pani was this much. The cars in the gully, the parked cars, there's no parking for many of our buildings. So they have to park on the street. So the gadis were like right up to their roof, they were full. And this fellow must have walked this much under, like up chest deep water. His pant got stuck in the fender of a car. And he fell and he drowned there. Imagine that he was so drunk that in even 4 feet of water, 3 feet of water, he couldn't get up and walk home. He died there. When the water reduced, their swollen body was found. So, itna sharab peete hain. Matlab, it's really...
I remember because my class has changed and I'm not in those areas. That's a possibility. But I remember I don't see the same amount of drunkards on the street that I used to see earlier I see them all. I'm passing all around all kinds of areas, but I don't see them. But when I was a kid, I used to see them all around.
Correct.
And they used to be lying on the roads, and I don't know what has changed. I have no idea how, because I'm sure I know more people, like all my friends who then used to say, "Main kabhi daru nahi piyega." All of them are bloody drunkards today. And they're like proper meat नहीं खाएगा वो लोग, लेकिन दारू ऐसा दबा के पिएगा, as if that is a sin and this is not, So वो अपना जोर से इतना दारू पिएगा, एक आधा लीटर दारू पिएगा when we are sitting together, but they're not on the streets.
Correct.
But there are all these
But
people.
I see a lot of Dadar में बहुत दिखते हैं. Like not just in our gully, but even near the station. If you walk, you will see But someone just lying on the footpath, so drunk, he's just like, lolling about on the footpath. Next morning, he will not be there.
maybe-
And अच्छे घर के मतलब शर्ट पैंट शूज ऑफिस जॉब जैसे लोग भी कितने बार पड़े हुए देखे मैंने. So strange.
Yeah, but maybe all the drunkards I know have migrated to Dadar.
Could be. And
That's a
in
possibility.
our when we were children, there used to be a matka place near our house.
Yeah.
So I told you one of my babysitters took me to a matka parlor. Because I was lucky. So he used to take me there and he used to bet on everything. And my mother completely freaked out and sacked him. But I know that Dada Kaka used to take me to matka parlor.
But this is actually the matka thing is there in my film.
Acha.
Yeah, it's a complete sequence, it leads to other things in the film. And what we had got, because this is an incident which I should tell you, and my uncle had got this guy, वो सारा setting करता था. मतलब he showed me, he sat with me before I cast him. He sat with me for half an hour. He got me the cards which I wanted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so he वो करता था and he could get all those 3 cards because there are 3 cards actually. The 3 cards जो चाहिए वो निकाल के लाता था.
Oh.
So it was, I guess it was a different kind of
Correct.
setting then. So वो होता था मटके में. अभी कौन करता था कौन नहीं भगवान जाने. Babu, I forget his name, but this is what he had showed us, and then I cast him in the film because I said, "तू ही कर फिर, I don't have to do retakes. तो ये चाहिए तो ये कर वो लाके दे देता था वैसे लाके वो cards आ जाते थे."
Correct.
So I didn't have to think too much then.
I think the other station, near the station, there are all these old world places, in the small, these things you find.
But Matka was banned for some time. I think it has started again. That's what I heard somebody on the road saying, "Arey, तूने कल क्या number लगाया था?" And in Jogeshwari I heard him, saying that. So, but it was banned for quite some time. Like
Desi Daru stalls, we have, I think, more than a dozen in a kilometer ka area.
Right.
Lot of drunkards. बहुत दारू तो बहुत पीते हैं दादर में. Lot of small, very small thekas.
And this is a fact because I think it has, that is what I feel has changed from the 80s to today, is daru suddenly has social sanction. And it didn't have social sanction in the 80s.
Yeah.
Smoking still doesn't have social sanction. Probably it has gone the reverse way. But because तभी लोग बिंदास पीते थे और कोई कुछ नहीं बोलता था. And I don't know how daru and cigarette are any different. I mean, in terms of health.
Correct.
You can always argue about things, but health-wise, they are both the same. I do both, so I'm not being sanctimonious anyway. Let me clarify. But I am saying
Correct.
that it is something which is, which like daru. To like so many of my friends when they were in college, daru nahi piyenge, daru nahi piyenge. And all now drunkards. You meet them, they don't. Nowadays, that's what I was talking with a friend, some other friend from some other, talking with them and he's saying, "हाँ, अगर मिल रहे हैं तो then they will meet and have daru."
Acha.
Nowadays people don't meet, otherwise
Correct.
they are having daru. Matlab, if you're meeting, then you have to make some arrangement somewhere and then people will sit and meet.
Correct.
I think that is a big change from the...
Yeah, and I remember that people didn't drink so much at home as such. When I mean at home, it meant mainly the men drank. And we have an alcohol-loving family. And my mom also drinks. So it was not a taboo or anything at our place. But I remember in certain uncles' places you couldn't drink because his parents lived with him. So his parties would be held at our place where there was no elder. Like we were a nuclear family, so my grandparents were not there. So he would host his parties at our place. So that they could have alcohol there.
And you could also have fun.
Correct.
Why would you refuse?
Correct. So I remember that those parties would be kept at our place or somebody else's place, but not at his place. And then they would say, "Arey nahi." Then if you wanted like सादा parties, then उसके घर पे सिर्फ खाने का party. Then कितने बार उधर जाके, like in Arnala we have 2-3 houses owned by uncles. So all relatives stay within a very close thing. So what they do is एक के घर में गणपति के लिए जाएंगे तो दूसरे के घर में दारू चल रहा है. तो वो यहाँ पे दर्शन लेके वहाँ पे जाके बैठ गए या रम्मी चल रहा है. तो it's very common to see that you do all the good things here and then you go there and you have a drink or whatever and then you go home.
But this used to happen in Ganpati pandals all the time. कि पीछे बैठ के लोग दारू नहीं पी रहे but जुआ तो खेल रहे.
Correct.
In the pandals that I have seen, it used to happen all the time. I don't know what happens now.
Even now, there is no daru, but people play.
And it's proper gambling. It's not like.
रम्मी खेलते हैं वो, maybe without money or what, I don't know, but.
नहीं पैसे के साथ ही खेलते हैं, मैंने तो देखा है ये. अभी का नहीं पता मुझे, but then it used to be a kind of a accepted thing. कि अरे चलो खेल रहे हैं अभी बैठे हैं तो. So that was, and those 90s I think even then used to be like some kind of entertainment ना, नहीं तो life में entertainment क्या था?
Correct.
तुम्हारे पास टीवी था सिर्फ, और वो टीवी पे you only had 2 hours of TV actually. People
And
don't
उसमें
realize.
भी आधा बेकार होता था.
हाँ.
Some
अरे,
of
we
that
used to watch
nonsense
that
is-
Amchi Mati, you remember? That Marathi program on farming,
Yeah.
Amchi Mati, my soil and my people,
Yeah.
that's what translates in English. And we used to just sit and watch farming programs,
Yeah.
I mean then.
ठिबक सिंचन पद्धती.
Tibak Sinchan Pand, absolutely.
I remember asking my mother, what does ठिबक सिंचन पद्धती mean?
No, and this one thing now I will come to is that this whole thing of memories being tangible then, which is photographs.
Correct.
We used to have tangible memories, which is like what we used to do, like when I never owned a camera because we couldn't afford a camera, I'm sure. But so when I shifted to college, there were a lot of people who were far better off than I was, and so all of them had cameras or cars, and and their parents were also far more educated and all that. So उनके पास तभी क्या होता था, फिर को 4 लोग 5 लोग कैमरा लेके आएंगे, फिर लाइक रोज डे है तो सब कैमरा लेके आया क्या, देन दे विल मेक अ लिस्ट एंड देन से तेरे को इसका कितना फोटो कितना चाहिए, ये फोटो कितना चाहिए, ये फोटो कितना चाहिए, all those photos you could get and you could pay them and you could get hard copies of that.
Correct.
Nowadays on WhatsApp, I mean, all these friends actually put up those pictures which are there, and with this new age thing which is just the smartphone and everything is at your dispense, and you can just take as many photographs as you want. I mean, there's not the same kind of value to that memory anymore.
Correct.
You're not going back and watching anything. You're not,
Correct.
I mean.
Although these days and now in the last few years I have started printing out my pictures as well. Every 2-3 years I go and I print out some 100-200 pictures and I keep them, because the kids, otherwise you miss their childhoods, because you're no longer seeing how they look when they were babies. So, and that you miss the most, because the kids, they've lost their form, physical form that you knew.
Right.
And you were touching, you have lost that form somewhere. Now that child is someone else. It's not that same child. So they need to see my children. All their childhood pictures I have printed out now. But you can print out anyway. You don't need a Kodak this thing. Now you just go to some random thing and say, इसका 500 pages है, इसको A4 पे डाल के, Word में डाल के, इसका print out निकालो. So many pictures I have printed out. Now my daughter does scrapbooks and all that, so that helps. But this whole first day at school, you miss those things because we didn't have those. But
so that is the whole tangible memory.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's like everything is like digital and God knows where it is lying after
Correct.
some time. वो album है तो कहीं घर पे है, किधर
Correct.
तो एक अच्छा properly रखा हुआ. All those photographs are
and
there.
Google memory is good because Google keeps sending you reminders for every 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and you can immediately see how that changes in
Right,
those years.
right.
So that I find very interesting. Now today itself I saw one video of Sarah as a baby, and she's doing ang 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 ang. She's talking like a kid, like a very small baby, and she was very surprised to see it, क्योंकि she has seen very few pictures of herself as a baby, क्योंकि ऐसे picture नहीं है ना कुछ देखने के लिए.
बराबर.
So she was very happy to see that video. She think I looked like this when I was a kid. So when they first start walking or something.
Do you remember watching these 3D films?
Yes, Chota Chetan I remember.
Shiva ka Insaf.
Shiva I didn't see, but Chota Chetan I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's in the book also. Anything that says Chota, this thing, then my father used to sing, it's a children's film, so you can watch it. But Shiva ka Insaf sounds like an adult film, you cannot see it. So, very random criteria for judging what films we should see versus what films we cannot see. Like Tarzan, he thought we could see. We went and saw Tarzan.
Kimi Katkar
in theatre. We were so embarrassed, but we didn't come back. Not one of us complained that the film was adult, because we would not be sent again. तो हम लोग आकर चुपचाप बैठे कि क्या बोलेंगे अभी घर
जाके. But it was not an adult film. The certification was not adult.
I don't know, but
but
Hemant Vijay is like pressing her breast in the film that I have not seen in any other Hindi film.
I remember only Parveen Bobby from.
In Tarzan, Hemant Vijay presses her breast. Obviously it's not suggested. It's seen. I saw it with my own eyes, and I'm like, oh freak! What is this film? What have we come to see? But we did not a single, without telling each other. Also, we decided we would not say this at home because we would never
get to
be
see a
sent.
film.
again.
Ah.
So I remember Tarzan, Chota Chetan, because it sounds like it's a kid's film. Then in the Azadi Ki Aur, if it's an animal film, then it's good for you. So watch animal films. Teri Meherbaniyan, कुत्ते का film है. मतलब कुत्ता is the hero of the
Yeah,
film.
yeah.
So we used to watch such films.
But this thing is about, for me, why I took out this whole 3D thing is because when we watched Chota Chetan and Shiva Ka Insaf, 3D was something completely different. Like if he has a chocolate and he's giving it to
it
a kid
comes
and
out
it's a
to you.
frontal shot of this guy, so you get a feeling like that hand is in
come
front
to
of
you.
you, of your eyes.
Correct.
You know, so now when this new 3D thing started and people said 3D mein dekhna hai 3D. And I had this childhood memory of 3D, and 3D is not like that in the
Correct.
West.
Correct.
It is about giving depth in the screen so that when you're watching the screen, you feel, arey, the garden is actually
Correct.
behind, and there is a dog running in front of it, and there is probably a tap in front of it. So you get that actual, not like a 2D image, you
Correct.
get it like a 3D, you get depth in the screen. That
Correct.
is what 3D means, actually, the way they're making it in Japan and in the US and wherever that these films are being made. So when I was so bloody disappointed. 3D पिक्चर देखने गए और ये क्या है, एक बार भी ऐसा हाथ बाहर नहीं आया, एक बार भी ऐसा कोई चॉकलेट नहीं दिया मेरे को और कुछ नहीं किया. आई वाज सो ब्लडी डिसअपॉइंटेड यार. अरे कुछ तो होता ना यार कि आप आए और आपने कुछ दिया मेरे को यार, सो मुझे दिया यार, मतलब कुछ नहीं हुआ. Then when Shiva is killing those people, then the Trishul is coming out.
Correct.
None of that is happening in these films. And it's a 3D film. Balls, I said this is a 3D film. I've been cheated. And as a completely full adult, I'm saying I've been cheated. Because you bloody don't know what 3D means. In India, 3D was given to you in a completely different packet. And said, ye lo, ye 3D hai. And those films were... Chota Chetan was a great film actually.
Yeah.
Even today I remember it. A South Indian film. And amazingly good film.
Correct.
It was... so
I remember seeing it in Vasai.
Acha.
At my cousin's, there was a place called Janki near my cousin's house, and we walked to the theatre, me, my cousin, and two of his friends, and we saw the film and we came back. Then we were doing all this, trying to walk on the wall, like Chota Chetan is doing. Then put this whole thing, putting your fingers in somebody's eyes, then keep doing it, saying I'm showing you 3D and all that. So quite strange things.
But
we used
those
to do
moments were magical. Yeah? I mean, to have a full hall or to be sitting on the street and watching films with 10,000, God knows how many people on both sides. कोई पेड़ पे बैठा है picture देख रहा है.
Correct.
You know, that whole thing of what entertainment meant and what cinema.
And nobody used to do CTVT, huh? Everyone's watching it nicely, except if there's a mungra or something, then people at the back like this. But otherwise, totally decent viewing. मतलब कोई cabaret पे सीटियाँ नहीं बज रही है, no catcalls, nothing, just nothing.
And those experiences, I think, are gone. Yeah. The only place where I got this experience was my film. I made a short called Rewind, which was at the Locarno Film Festival in Switzerland. In Locarno Film Festival, there is something called as it's a huge festival. It's as big as Cannes, and there's almost about 15 screenings, 15 venues for screening. One of the venues is called the Piazza Grande. In the Piazza Grande, it's in the middle of the street in Locarno.
Acha.
It's not in the middle, but it's in the middle of the street, so it's not like you can see it from the other side because they are like cinema hai.
Yeah.
अपने इधर तो ऐसा चलता है, but it's like it's at an extreme end of the, मतलब they block that road and you can't see it from behind. That is so unfortunate. The Swiss have just missed out on what cinema actually is, cinema on the street is. But you could see it, and 10,000 people watch it on the streets.
Acha.
You know, so that is I think I saw the Bourne Ultimatum there.
Okay.
And it was an amazing experience after such a long time. You know, वो कभी बचपन में कभी देखा था theatre.
There is now a drive-in theatre in Bombay.
हाँ, but it's a drive-in ना, मतलब
you can, it's a public this thing, you can just drive in and watch it and come back. अब भी शुरू हुआ है, some 4 months ago or something.
But it's an open air theatre.
Open air theatre.
You remember where it was earlier?
In BKC.
Yeah, Santa Cruz. So if you're going from Dadar to Borivali, you could actually see the screen from the train.
Acha.
And you could hear the dialogues.
Yeah.
Like you're in the train and those dialogues were so loud, you could actually hear the dialogues. And you could actually see the screen from the train. You know, like bada sa screen tumko train se. That's how I remember it. So you could see that screen. So you're passing by, just as a kid, you're going there. You know, all those are absolutely...
Yeah, that drive, I never went to it, but when I saw some clippings, I thought I should go and check it out.
I just wanted to come down to something which is, a little personal, and where it comes to it's there in the book, actually, where you say that both my parents didn't follow any religion or rituals. It is said that when the Ganeshotsav organizers came home to ask for a donation, Baba drove them away saying, I'm a Hindu because of an accident of birth. I have not chosen this religion. Because he was basically an atheist, right?
Yeah.
He was an atheist.
Although he didn't proclaim that he was an atheist, but he was an atheist. He didn't believe in God or anything, and he never prayed. But he was not, he's not somebody, if he was in a temple, he would not go and stand outside.
He was not Bachchan.
Not
from Diwar.
Bachchan from Diwar.
Yeah.
But if he is in a temple, he'll fold his hands. And if he's at a Shraddh, he will touch the the dead body or whatever. But he was not somebody who, like I said, we've never gone to Siddhivinayak, Shirdi to take darshan. We don't stand in line to take darshan of Ganpati. We don't, whatever. Because the Ganpati temple is right at our doorstep. If we are going for some good work, we pray there. Theek hone do. If we are going for a journey, we say let it go without event. And stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
which is a normal, I think.
Correct. But it's not like a very dharmic. We don't follow any.
Yeah.
We don't follow any of that.
That is the beauty of Hinduism.
Yeah.
That one doesn't have to. There is no religious head.
And there is
sitting
no
on our
ritualism for sure.
Yeah.
No ritualism at all. We don't follow that at
But
all.
your mother was.
So my mother did her basic things, but there was no force for us to follow anything. Neither is she very particular about the way. Like I know families where they are very particular कि नहा के ही इस चीज को हाथ लगाना है. Don't touch this before this thing. This tawa is meant for this thing. This tawa is not meant for anda and non-veg. So I know families like that. In our family, I know that there are households like that. Or Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays we don't eat non-veg and stuff like that. But we have never been. We eat non-veg on all days of the week. In fact, our mutton wala Ali Bhai used to tell us, "Arey, aaj le rahe mutton, aaj Sankashti hai na? To aaj Sankashti hai kya?" Then my father would say, "Chitra, aaj Sankashti hai, what to do?" My mother would say, "Arey, le lo yaar, what Sankashti?" And all. So we used to take. Sometimes my mother would declare, today is Sankashti, no more this thing. Itna bhi karke, if we decided not to have non-veg that day, my father would come to the lunch table and say, "She yaar, kuch non-veg nahi, chalo, to ande to ubal lo kam se." So anda ubal ke khate the. So it's like that. So,
yeah, but even if now on Sankashti and all, if you go outside in anywhere in Thane, like Thane is a hardcore non-veg place.
Correct.
It's unlike like the way Bombay is becoming now. But Thane is a hardcore non-veg place. So you go anywhere, it's always full.
Correct.
Like right now, today we went out for lunch and it's Saturday and it's completely full. All the non-veg places are completely full in Thane in the afternoon today. So that is what it is. My question actually, question, how much of it was an influence in your personal decision with your marriage? Because I know like Shan, your husband is my batchmate from FTI and he's a Muslim, and the last thing that anybody can call Shan is a Muslim. Even from any closer.
No, but this line, like my father said, it's an accident of birth. I think Shan also thinks it's an accident of birth that he was born Muslim. He doesn't identify with being Muslim. He doesn't do anything connected with being Muslim. I think he is a bigger atheist than my father actually. Because Shan doesn't even go to places of worship. He doesn't disrespect anyone. किसी के घर में अगर पूजा है तो he will go and fold his hands. But he doesn't seek any of it and he doesn't go definitely. Like if he knows I'm going to a temple, he will definitely not come with me. Knowing कि वहाँ पे जाके ये कर. So that way he has a very clear rule about, and I think now with him, living with him for so many years, I have also become dhilla about these things. We don't do anything. Diwali ke liye we feel like we get sweets, we don't feel like we don't celebrate. Eid, I feel like making sheer kurma, I make it. Otherwise, I don't know what Eid with karo. So it's like that. Nobody forces us. Actually, the thing about it's never been a question of marrying a Muslim, because like it's in the book also. When I was in my 3rd standard, there was a woman who came to live in our house to take care of us, me and my sister. Her name was Nazia. And she was a complete unknown person. She came from someone's contact, someone's whatever. We didn't know what her background was. But her name was a dead giveaway. And I remember very clearly that my parents didn't hitchhichao even once before they hired her, first of all. However, once she came into the household and started living with us, I know that a lot of my relatives had a problem coming to my house because like that sovla of this thing. Nobody, like there was a grandmother of mine who refused to touch, not my grandmother, she was open-minded, but there was another Kaki Aji who would not even have water in our house because of Nazi being there. And we used to find it so silly. Ki, what is all this? Yeah, but there was this huge thing about Muslim girls staying at our place. And I remember that my father always staunchly stood by this thing ki we don't discriminate, so we don't care what you think over it. This is our house. We will live the way we want to. We because we were not so ritualistic, I think some of it, when Nazi came home, we started celebrating Eid. So she doesn't have a family. She's not gone to her house for more than 3 decades now. And we don't know who her family is. It's a complete mystery. But because she would miss her family, we started celebrating Eid after 3-4 years after she came. She would make shir korma in that time, and she taught my mother how to make biryani when she came. And now there is one type of biryani. It's not the Hyderabadi dum biryani. It's another kind of, it's a green and white biryani. So it's called Nazichi biryani. And now Nazichi biryani is practiced all through the globe because of my cousins who have now, one of them lives in Singapore, one of them lives in US. They all have a recipe of Nazichi biryani because we've not eaten that biryani anywhere else except with Nazi. So it's a famous recipe now. Everyone eats that biryani. So for me, our first understanding that this is what others don't do, but it's okay in your house to do. So when I met Shan for the first time, I didn't think that him being Muslim would be a large objectionable thing for marriage. Although his being from the film industry would have been a big this thing for my parents कि settle नहीं होगा लड़का, struggle करते रहेगा, पता नहीं, there is no background in films, so how will he do whatever. So I knew for this thing that his Muslimness would not be this thing. Also, and given the point that if he were truly Muslim, I don't think I would have been able to get along with him only because myself not being so ritualistic, how can you get along with somebody who takes religion so seriously? Yeah. So we don't have it's not really Muslim Hindu. So it's actually a misnomer to say that I married a Muslim or that it was a Hindu-Muslim marriage because we are both not very conservative.
That's how the world views you anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's the sad part of all this. That's how the world views you. And there is a small incident in your book actually during the Bombay riots. Yeah. When that's a
Nazi.
Narrated here.
Yeah. So during the Bombay riots, there was a lot of. So we live close to the gully that I live in is boxed in by 2 Muslim localities. Okay, one is around 200 meters away or 150 meters away, and one is literally 50 meters away. And there are 2 masjids on both sides of the street. And during the riots, there was a lot of insecurity amongst this thing, thinking what will happen, because there was no communication flow. People didn't really know who was killing whom, what is happening. Kuch bhi you didn't know because the news was not so this thing. So I remember there was a lot of fear and whatever, and our building people came to us, our building people are really dull people, like really conservative and very stupid in some of the things they follow. But anyway, so like I said, building compound mein chawl wale kids couldn't come and play into the building compound. The building compound is khali, nothing there. Why can't kids come and play? Nahi, dopahr ko hamari neend disturb hoti hai. Now your own kids are playing, it's okay. But samne wala kids can, it's very silly ways of thinking. So so my building people came to say ki there is Nazi living here, so you please send her away, otherwise we will all be in danger. So my father got so pissed off. He said she will stay with her family, you guys go do whatever. If you guys get killed, we are okay to get killed. If you get killed, we don't care. So then they went back, of course, but
Because your father was also very well respected. I mean, he
Huh.
was
and
not
he
some-
was, but he didn't back down from a fight. And he said, we are not going to do anything. It's our luck if that happens. But we will not give up on her, and we are not sending her anywhere, and we'll figure out if something like that happens. Nothing happened because we've been living in good peace with both with all communities. There is a Jain hall next to, there's a Gurdwara on the main road, which is another 200 meters. There is absolutely no problem whatsoever. For any kind of belief, rigidity doesn't work, because then you're not letting simple humanness exist, ना, because मैं ऐसा करूँगा तो ही श्रद्धा है, और ऐसा नहीं करूँगा तो there is no श्रद्धा in me is an idiotic this thing.
Yeah. But that is how.
I would not call myself atheist because I do believe, I do have faith.
Right.
It's an amorphous faith, but I have faith.
Right.
I don't believe in ritualism or religion, but I have faith. You can't tell me what to believe in.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me that there is no power over me. There is some divine power, and I believe in that power. So, for me, it is amorphous. I'm happy with it. I have no reason to convince anybody else that.
Right. Because it's a private space, no?
So
Religion ideally should be a private space.
And so should you. If you are a Hindu or a Muslim, you should be happy in your faith, na? Why you have to change everyone else's minds about what they should think? But I think the way the power structures have been designed, the way our lives are controlled with religion, and simple logical thing. अभी हमारे घर के नीचे एक small temple है. इतू सब मूर्ति है. It's a very nice मूर्ति. It's not painted. It's a very small orange मूर्ति. You are trying to tell me that darshan you can get anytime. There is no line. There is nothing. Just go there, touch this thing, come back. Lal Bagh Sa Raja, you are standing 12 hours in line. Are you telling me that that Ganpati is more powerful than this Ganpati? What is the logic there? तुमको गणपति के ही पैर छूने हैं ना, तो मतलब this logic I don't understand. कि how does a stone make the difference? And why should you feel the need to convince me that stone has more power than this stone?
Right.
So for me, it's got more to do with, there is no logic in the way you're behaving. Like Siddhi Vinayak, if you go, you get pushed away idhar udhar. 3 seconds bhi darshan nahi milta hai. So if you're looking at God as a way of route of contemplation and reflection, there is absolutely no space that your present religious ritualism is allowing you to do it. When my father passed away, first time we did some religious thing, and it was mainly emotional for me because my father wanted to give his body away to medicine. That time I thought कि मतलब now he's इतना ही बचा हुआ with us, ये भी दे देंगे, तो what is there left? So, and his body was abused. I don't think medicine had anything to study in him. So I said, we will not give it to medicine, we will do proper shraddha and cremate him. So we decided कि first time कि कुछ religious श्राद्ध करेंगे. So we cremated him. We did this thing in Arnala where he was born.
Cremated as if you burnt him.
Burnt him, yeah. And we take the asti back, right? He would have wanted his astis to be put in the Arnala sea. So I took it to Arnala for the 10th day, this thing. You will be surprised. I was there with that matka and I was putting the ashes in the sea, and there were picnickers dancing in that same place, same place on the beach on Arnala. There were college kids romping around in the
water.
Sand, okay? And I thought, so silly. कि मतलब इनको पता है इधर श्राद्ध हो रहा है, बाजू में श्राद्ध का ये है वहाँ, what do you call, स्मशान, फिर भी they're playing there. मतलब so much of this asti must be there in that water. It is ridiculous to do this. Let's not do the shraddha from next time. Then first year we did this. First, that 13th day we did. First year say we make fish. We make my father's favorite food. We offer it to the crow. Crow is also happy. We are also happy. So what are these rituals? At least we should question. No, I am saying forget larger concepts of God and divinity. वो सब छोड़ो, religion वगैरह. But simple rituals तो you can follow ना कि बाबा क्यों? Why are we doing this? Is this helping anything? Are we wasting too much food with this? Something you should
I
think
think the new
about.
ritual should be delete WhatsApp and you will have a happy marriage. something like that. Delete your WhatsApp, talk with your wife, spend time with your kids. These are rituals which are never going to come in fashion.
अभी
You
तुम
know,
लोग
so-
ऐसा बोलोगे तो वाइफ विल लीव यू इफ यू लीव व्हाट्सएप
हाँ।
अरे यार
अभी तो ऐसा
टू
हो
मच
गया
अटेंशन नाउ
अभी सबके पास अपना इंडिविजुअल एक व्हाट्सएप पड़ा हुआ है so this same thing about so just shift it quickly we'll shift to the topic and then I would like you to read a paragraph from your book like this WhatsApp and like how people understand WhatsApp is that it's in their phones.
Correct.
But we know what a phone is, right? I
Correct.
mean, people of this generation might
Correct.
not know, but we have seen what a phone is. Like, I never had a phone till I was 21.
ओके
So there was no phone in my house, nothing, कुछ नहीं मतलब तो like यशोधन नगर में था तो कोई नीचे से बुलाता था और पैसा लेता था. To
Correct.
take an incoming call, that was बोलते हैं incoming chargeable. This is how it was chargeable then.
Correct.
That used to shout out and say तुम्हारा phone आया है, then you come down because in college friends, all my friends had phones almost.
Correct.
So they used to call up for कि यहाँ मिलना है or whatever. So I used to come down, take the phone and give 1 rupee for taking the call. I
Receiving
think that is there in your book also.
Yeah.
But this is exactly, and then when I came here and we used to play cricket in this friend called Ritesh's compound because they used to have this tennis court and we used to play cricket there. Box cricket kind of a thing. So I didn't have a phone. तो इसको कैसे बुलाएगा? So there was this another friend here called Rahul Kulkarni. He used to stay on the 4th floor of a building, about 20 buildings away. So उसको बोलते थे, he was never interested in coming. So he had to come down, walk across those 20 buildings to my house, and then तभी नीचे से बुलाते थे. आजकल you don't hear that sound, you know. कि राहुल और अतुल you don't hear that anymore. And so नीचे से बुलाता था and then जैसे अरे वो क्रिकेट खेल रहे उधर so मैं यहाँ से अपना साइकिल निकाल के then I used to go. So your memory of the telephone, I think it's hilarious in that. And is there anything else that you remember about that period, about not having the telephone and going from not having the telephone to actually having one?
So we had all these kind of weird things to. Sometimes your number was given as care of. I know that one of my mom's friend was marrying outside her caste at the time. My mom's friend, so she must have been 10 years younger to my mom. She was married outside her caste. So she used to come on one day every week, fixed day, when her husband would call, to-be husband would call her on our phone. Because उसके घर पे phone नहीं कर सकते. So a lot of this kind of planning and this thing went into just like one phone call. Every day my mommy would go to leave her, drop her kids to school, come back, sit in our house, finish all her phone work. इसको फ़ोन किया उसको फ़ोन किया वो मैच मेकिंग करती थी तो वो हमारे फ़ोन से सब मैच मेकिंग देन शी वुड कीप अ हिसाब ऑफ द मनी एंड देन कीप द मनी एंड गो फिर मनी मांगने में भी शर्म आती थी तो वी हैड पुट वन स्टिकर सेइंग 3 rupees फॉर आउट गोइंग एंड 1 rupee फॉर इनकमिंग कॉल फॉर रिसीविंग कॉल्स सो इट वॉज what do you say, very interesting. It was interesting the way social equations and this things changed.
That has changed tremendously since
then. So that is what it was quite the first 6-8 months after the phone, this thing was very, very, very interesting.
And I think we should just get down to your book now finally. So why is it called like Faaltugiri and other flashbacks? I think you have given us a pretty good insight anyway, and how Faaltugiri and other flashbacks, how I survived childhood in the 80s. So where does this book come from? What part of you?
So it comes from the fact that I continue to live in a space that I was almost born. Like I was brought there when I was 1.5-3 months old. And I continue to live there now in another space, not the same one, but in the same building I live now. And my kids are growing up there. And I can't help but notice how they are growing up and what my memories of that same space and the same constraints are today. And it's an interesting contrast. There are some very good things and some things that I feel they are missing out on and something that I missed out on as a child. And Faaltugiri mainly because Faaltugiri was one of the words that changed my equation with my parents. I learnt a new word in school and I started using it like one new toy, and that changed it made my relationship with my parents more open because then I was using slang, and then my parents are not formal and strict with me saying you can't use these words, but they changed themselves and they started doing this. And we had a very good irreverent relationship because of these kind of events. And they didn't take themselves too seriously. And so it is Faaltugiri. So everything was Faaltugiri only. And we did a lot of time pass when we were kids. A lot of this was absolutely without value. Because today you bring up children to see value in everything, in the sense that I have to spend quality time with the kids. I have to send them to like extracurricular classes. And I have to, we were 3 घंटा है बैठ के करो कुछ भी करा है. Bore होते तो bore हो जाओ, no problem. Then I was locked at home when my parents went for work. For a whole day, 8 hours, nothing, no TV, nothing. How I used to spend my time.
Your whole life was extracurricular.
Yeah, and Faaltugiri only. Then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Then you are doing some time pass. I used to like shave off the eraser and collect the chura, then put milk in it, then put that in the fridge. Because someone told me you will make a new eraser that way. Although why should you denigrate one existing eraser to make a new one? I have not understood. What is the logic there? Then that pencil shavings. Then we decided to sabun ka jhag I put in the fridge once. पूरा घिस के वो lather create करने के लिए then I put it in this thing. Because I thought it will make a new cream. If I freeze it, but scientific experiments like this were always discouraged.
Yeah, of course.
So that way. So we had an interesting childhood. We did all these silly things. My kids also continue to do silly things, but their exposure, their questions are very different. And today we engage with kids on those questions. When we were young, we were just told, what do you want to do with all this sambar chaukasha? You just do whatever I tell you to do, that's enough. Nothing else you need to do. So your questions were never answered. Today, if I don't answer a question, my son can go to Wikipedia and get an answer on the same thing.
Right.
So
That is very true.
When I tell him Durga story, he will correct me and say, ऐसा नहीं हुआ था. उसका एक drop ground पे गिर के उसका 10 अंधकासुर बना था. I'm like, how do you know if I have not told you? He said, I read on Wikipedia. I'm like, why are you reading about Durga on Wikipedia? Just like that. So for him there is no reason to look at a particular this thing. So that kind of laid back childhood and aimlessness is very important, I think. Was very regular for us as kids, I think. So
in that childhood, yes, I think that's it. So I don't want to talk too much about the book because I want people to read it actually, because I think it's an amazingly breezy read. So what I would like you to do is read it. But before that, I would like to know because I have written a book on screenwriting and and the procedure to write a screenplay. So in that context, what I would like to know is that what was your procedure to writing this book? Is there a certain kind of procedure that was followed, or you just wrote chapters and then you said, okay, so what was that step 1, step 2 kind of a thing?
See, what had happened was that my father passed away before my son was born. Okay. And my son would often ask me, how was your father? And many of these stories began as me telling him what my father was like. Then my mother, when she heard this, she said, Janu, you should write this down. Yeah? I have forgotten these aspects of it. So I said, yeah, maybe I'll write it down. And I wrote down one story. Then I wrote another story. It turned out suddenly, those stories I was writing fatafat. In 20 minutes I would be done with it. Then suddenly I had these 19 stories and I'm like, what am I really trying to say? Can I do so? And I was sharing them with friends saying, see what is this? Let's see, I wrote this. And they would say, why don't you make this into a book? And I'm like, yeah, but what is the central thought of this, all these stories? What binds them together? What am I trying to say? And then it started. Then I tried to put it together to form a single narrative and bring together the politics of what I wanted the book to say and stuff like that. So it was ad hoc at the beginning, but later on it became then I was cutting it, I was very unhappy with it. Then I was cutting it, chopping it, redoing ये वो. बहुत साल चला वो, 3-4 साल चला. And so the initial writing happened in one flow, but later on, then I would be then I would feel very, very disappointed with it and say, chuck it, I don't want to do it anymore. Nothing will happen. Ye wo. Then again revisit 3-4 months later and again sit on it. And that is how it actually went ahead.
And that's how you eventually, like, you kept on writing, and finally you had the whole book.
Correct.
That's how writing is actually.
Correct.
You know, like I've always said, write half a page. You know,
Correct.
I should teach students, and I used to tell them, boss, likho, baki to kuch nahi hai.
Correct.
Because everybody in at least in film schools I've seen, like in the film schools I was teaching in FTI, though hardly, I don't know how many people used to write, but otherwise, and in the film schools I used to say, तुम लिखता ही नहीं है, तुम film क्या बनाएगा?
Correct.
You know, that's it. Because I'm not talking in terms of novels, but I'm
Correct.
saying that generally whatever that you do, if you keep on writing like half a page every day, like it's easy to write half a
Correct.
page, yeah, whatever you want to. Like you write a social media post.
Correct.
You know, like I used to write, you know how many social
Yeah,
media posts I used to
yeah.
write. So, you know, like, and then automatically you get the rhythm. Of
Correct.
course you need talent. I mean,
Correct.
I have never believed that you just keep on doing something
Correct, and then
it's
get
going
it.
to happen. Of course, you will obviously improve, but that special talent is always
Correct,
there.
correct.
There are writers who write special, and there are writers who write average, and there are writers, and maybe everybody works hard.
Correct.
So that is not the
Correct.
that is not the difference that I
But
feel.
writing specifically, you need to write in order to write.
Absolutely, there's no other way out.
it.
There's no other way out.
And no matter
you know?
how unhappy you are with it, no matter how much it sucks, you read it and you feel like it's shit. I don't know what I'm doing. It's so bekar. But you then work on it and you then work on it, and it's actually a very difficult process. Matlab, I'm very scared
Mindfuck.
of this.
Yeah.
Like you have so much insecurity and it's so
Yeah.
isolating and alienating from everyone, and you are trying, and your mind is always on it. You are not rid of that. It's like one illness in you, and you have to get it out and get it in the format you want, and it's really very disturbing while it is on. Then
Yeah,
once
yeah.
you're done with it, you feel that relief कि हाँ हो गया. अभी उसके ऊपर execution level problems है, मगर उसका जो actual ये है, it's very painful actually.
So I mean, I think male writers can, I think, compare it with childbirth, I guess.
Yeah.
No, liya, and once it's done, it's a
Correct. No,
completely.
but childbirth is more difficult because they don't go away. Na? The kids are there.
Yeah, then it's your
Kids will
responsibility
trouble you.
also to give them values. That's a bigger problem. It's not about just having children
Correct.
anymore now.
Yeah.
To
No,
give them-
values का भी कुछ नहीं है. It's just that it's for women, childbirth is a huge what do you say? Usurping of self-agency, rights, territory, everything. Everything. Your body is not your own. Your mind is not your own. Your duties are not your own. Everything you are doing, most of the everything you are doing is for the child only. So you don't realize how much it gets into your life till the child is like 3-4 years old, by which time you can't return. So it's there now.
But there's this thing which, I mean, a very good friend of mine called Ketan Goyal, he said it to me. You know, he said that you never stop being a parent.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that actually was the most concise thing that one can say about parenthood, you know, about
Correct.
having children, is that you never stop being a parent.
Correct.
So like even today, my mom will call me and ask me, khana khaya kya,
Correct.
pocha kya, ye kiya kya. So I mean, you will get irritated, but the
Correct.
fact is that she is not stopped being a parent. You may
Correct.
have grown out of
Correct.
being their child or whatever, but they never stopped. Yeah, I mean, so that's it. I mean, of course, one gets older
And we don't grow up out of being children also. Like with my mum, my mum treats me like a child, and I still behave like I'm a child also. Like
Right,
I will
right.
still say, my blouse I can't find. Then she will give me one long lecture. You don't keep your stuff properly. You don't, just go find that blouse and give me. Then she will want to keep the blouses. It's not like you're like giving me my blouses to keep in my house. She'll say, "Sab idhar lake dal deti ho tum." Then nothing you can find on your own, whatever. Then she will find it and give it to me. Then my son does this. Where is my geography notebook? It was there in the. I can't find it because you have not looked at it properly. When I go, I find it. He said, "How come you always find it and I don't?" I said, "I keep it properly." But it's the same model,
at whatever age.
and you just feel ki she's there. She'll look for it and like it will happen. So if you are able to manage your relationship with your mom effectively, you can enjoy being a child and a parent both at the same time.
Right.
So my mother then sometimes scolds my children, saying, ki, "Why don't you let her sit for 15 minutes, yeah? Let me talk to my daughter for 15 minutes without you disturbing. Go to another room and sit." So for her to carve that space out for me, because I am her child. That's not something that
And
you
that's
see.
very special also.
Correct.
No? That feels very special
Correct.
actually. Yeah.
So
That's
she
an
will say
amazing
कि,
thought actually,
हाँ,
what you said. Yeah.
खा के जाओ, अभी खा के तो what will you do there? What will you eat over there?
Right.
So that notion of care. So for her grandchild is separate and her child is separate. She will say, don't talk to my child like that. How are you talking to your mother? No, you can't talk to your mother like that. She's my child. So this feeling that I am also to be protected, that feeling is very this thing. If you're living with your mom, even better. Shan always teases me about it कि अभी तक umbilical cord टूटा नहीं है माँ के खुद के माँ के साथ, तो बच्चों के साथ कैसे टूटेगा कभी?
No, so let's wrap it up with this fantastic book you have that called Faaltugiri and other flashbacks.
Yes.
And how I survived childhood in the 80s. So if you can read out something for all of us.
Should I read about the telephone only?
You read, you read whatever you want. I mean, the telephone thing is very funny, so read something, I think.
Okay.
Or you want to read anything. I mean, it's entirely your choice. Yeah, read half a
I'll
page,
read the
2 page,
telephone
whatever.
only. I think the telephone is a good...
Yeah, because we haven't really discussed the telephone also. So
Yeah.
that's fun. Yeah.
So I'll begin with a chapter called Tring Tring Comes the Telephone. It is about how the telephone first was brought into our house. And we had... I'll just talk about how, and I'll read some excerpts out of that chapter. I must have been in the 3rd standard. Baba had come to pick me up from school. That in itself was a big thing. Because when Baba would come to school, I would take him straight to the canteen and point to popcorn or masala roll or cone ice cream. Which flavor? Chocolate, of course. It cost 2 rupees 50 paise in those days. And the mango candy cost rupees 1 rupee 50 paise. Anyway, as we walked, me in my usual sing-song style hanging on to his hand, eating my ice cream, Baba dropped the bombshell. There is a surprise for you at home. Me? Really? What? New dress? High heels? Baba? No. Even better. Me jumping up and down. What? Tell me. Baba managed to hold on till we reached our building. Then at the gate, as I rushed forward to check out for myself, he loudly announced, "It's a telephone." It was a shiny green-grey machine with a round plastic dial. It was that rounded type of phone that came between the dull black clunky phones and the sleek rectangular ones. I touched the machine in excitement, reverence and wonder. I lifted the receiver. The phone was not yet connected. It would take 7 days to connect the line and be able to make and receive calls. But that didn't matter. I dialed a number anyway. My grandmother's. That was the only number I knew by heart. I immediately reprimanded. Don't! You'll spoil the dial by turning it too fast. Stop fiddling with it. In those days, the big thing about phones was not the making of the call. It was the receiving. There was much authority in being summoned to the phone because someone was in need. Phones were taken very seriously. Nobody called to ask mundane, insignificant things like where have you reached, what's up. If people wanted casual information about some person's well-being, they visited each other. They called only if it was a matter of great importance and urgency. A few of our society households did have a phone, but we didn't have symbiotic neighborhood relationships with any of them. So we didn't receive many calls. But then our phone arrived and soon our social worth rose. Immediately the next door Shirsats took our number. My mommy upstairs, whose calls came at the Prabhu household earlier, switched loyalties to us. For 5 days, my sister and I played with the dead phone. We pretended to be film heroines saying, "Kya? Nahi," in that exaggerated tone, and then collapsing on our knees while sobbing into the receiver. Sometimes we pretended that a killer was following us through the house and we were frantically trying to reach the phone to call the police. As you can imagine, we devised many of these film scenario-inspired games. Sometimes we just picked up a phone and sang songs into it. Then finally, in about a week, the phone started. Just like that, on its own. Our parents were out, and I guess it was the rainy season because we hadn't been allowed to play outside that day. So my sister, I, Sai and Bali, the Nerurkar siblings from the 4th floor, were playing in our living room. During one of our phone games, we heard the dial tone. Boy, did we freak out. For some inexplicable reason, we immediately called 100. The conversation went a bit like this. Police control room, saying, Namaskar, Mumbai police room. 4 kids chortling. Hey, tum police Pandu hai. At that time, Pandu was a very big word. Police, hello, who is speaking? Again with more giggling. Tum stupid hai, tum idiot hai. Police, hey, who's speaking? Police will come and arrest you. Then Sai, in a fit of bravado, tum padrya hai, tum hagrya hai. So, then we quickly put the phone down and started laughing loudly. The phone was working and we were the first to discover it. We told our parents as soon as they got home and also about the phone call. A more responsible parent would have been concerned about our delinquent behavior or the deep-seated anti-establishment psyche we had displayed by calling the police padrya. But not our parents. They smiled widely and immediately dusted the phone. They didn't make any calls. Yeah, that's it.
Very nice, very nice. So I think we can wrap up around here, and I think it was a pleasure to have you here. And whoever is listening to this, I hope you have discovered the real Janhavi here. So that was and it's been fun. I mean, it was a pleasure because I've known her for like 2 decades now, but I don't think we had this kind of a chat ever. And it was really entirely my pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And I hope everybody please buy this book, read this book. It's an amazingly breezy read. You can read it, I think, in like 2 hours if you start off, and it's very funny. And it's called Faaltugiri and Other Flashbacks: How I Survived Childhood in the 80s. So thank you, Janhavi, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I drop a new episode every Friday night at around 10 p.m. I will also end this and every episode by recommending a film or a web series. But before that, here is a small message on how you can help to keep this podcast alive and growing. This episode is free and I intend to keep it that way. But it does take a lot of time, money and effort to produce the show. We research, write, record and edit before we finally present it to you. So if you wish to be a part of our effort, you can support the making of the show by contributing any amount you wish on our website, conversationswithatul.com/support. And here is my series reco for the week. Since we discussed the 80s, the one show which I absolutely loved from that time is this television series created by Carol Black and Neil Marlins. It was called The Wonder Years. It is the story of a young boy stumbling through school, love and life in his teenage years. It is a whopping 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Do watch if you haven't already. The Wonder Years, created by Carol Black and Neil Marlins. Follow me on Twitter by following my Twitter handle Atul Taishete, spelled as ATULTAISHETE. Also, do visit my website Conversations, that is Conversations plural with an S. The complete website address is conversationswithatul.com. So see you next Friday at 10 p.m. with a different guest, a new episode and a fresh conversation right here on Conversations with Atul. Have a rocking fun week and stay safe. Thank you.